Savored Temptation by Black authors. Chapter 1. A Culinary Awakening. The salty breeze wrapped around me like a warm embrace as I stepped off the vibrant turquoise boat and onto the pearl-white sands of the island. Sunlight filtered through the canopy of palm trees, casting dappled shadows that danced playfully on my skin. The intoxicating scent of marine salt mingled with the sweet fragrance of hibiscus flowers, awakening my senses and propelling me into this vibrant yet foreign world. I could hear the distant rhythmic lapping of the waves, a soothing backdrop to the whirlpool of thoughts swirling in my mind. Excitement simmered alongside anxiety, like a stalk waiting to reduce. I inhaled deeply, feeling tiny grains of sand shift beneath my sandals. This island, a luxury escape reserved for the elite, was meant to showcase my culinary talents, but it was also a stage for the performance of my life. I would be working as a personal chef for Corbin Langston, a man ensconced in mystery and success. What did he see in me? My heart quickened, thinking about whether I was enough, or if my ambition would crumble under the weight of his world. Amara, a voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back to reality. I turned, and there he was, Corbin Langston himself. Tall, magnetic, with that lush, deep voice that felt as rich as cocoa. He stood with a commanding presence. His gray eyes glinted in the sunlight, framed by perfectly tousled hair. Welcome to paradise, or so they say. He gestured to the surroundings, a teasing smile dancing on his lips. Paradise? I replied, forcing a playful tone, even as my nerves bubbled beneath the surface. Seems more like a tropical prison for overworked chefs. His laughter was warm, inviting, and I couldn't help but let a smile slip through. Is that what you think? I assure you, Amara, the food here is my true prison. I need you to liberate me from that tyranny. Just wait until you taste my first dish. You might miss the prison food. I shot back, a playful challenge simmering between us. Is that a promise or a threat? Corbin's tone turned abruptly low, his smile shifting to something more intense, stirring the air with tension. Both, depending on how you behave, I shot back, surprised at my boldness. His gaze didn't waver, instead sharpening on me like a knife aimed for precision. Then let's ensure I'm on my best behavior, shall we? He responded, his voice a smooth, confident drawl that wrapped around me, igniting nerves I thought I could suppress. Corbin stepped closer, and the world around us faded, the rhythmic sounds of the sea diminishing into a soft hum. We were playing a subtle game, each word a thread pulling tighter in the fabric of the moment. My heart raced, skittering with the thrill of attraction, battling my determination not to falter, not to lose myself in his charm. I'm going to start in the kitchen, I said, forcing myself to take a step back, seeking the sanctuary of my artistry amidst all this tumultuous energy. Lead the way, chef, he said, his eyes glimmering with something that felt almost predatory, an electric challenge between us. The kitchen was a chef's dream, all gleaming surfaces and high-end appliances, but it could not steal my focus from the magnetic pull of Corbin's presence. I busied myself with preparations, the clattering of pots and the chopping of vegetables settling my nerves. With each slice of the knife, I infused layers of flavor into my creation. It was my way of exerting control, a hard-won comfort in a world that felt intimidatingly vast. Dare I ask what the secret ingredient is? Corbin leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, his stance relaxed, but his gaze sharp, as if he could read my every thought. I shot him a sidelong glance, a smile playing at the corners of my mouth. Can't give away all my secrets on the first day. Wouldn't want you to get too complacent. Complacency in the eyes of a chef like you? He chuckled softly, but there was an edge to it, an undercurrent of challenge. I sincerely doubt that's an option. As I focused on the dish, a risotto infused with an explosion of flavors, hinted with saffron and a whisper of truffle. The aphrodisiac herbs cracked open hidden corners of my insecurities, swirling with excitement and, surprisingly, desire. I glanced back at him. He was watching with a rapt intensity, the light touching his skin as if he were sculpted from gold. "Are you always so focused?" he asked, a teasing lilt challenging my concentration. I turned, flour dusting my fingertips like a veil of artistry, preserving a striking contrast to the electric tension simmering between us. "Only when I feel I have something worthy of your palate," I shot back, my voice steady, but even I detected the slight tremor beneath. His laughter echoed, warming the spacious kitchen. "Then let's hope I'm not too demanding. Otherwise, perhaps you'll be the one scolded today." The playful banter soon escalated into a contest of wills, our flirtation taking turns like a well-executed dish. "Corbin, have you actually tasted food made with intention before?" I asked, our competitiveness spurring something delicious in me. Corbin raised an eyebrow, feigning shock. "Please, I am refined. I just refrain from common kitchen pleasantries," he declared, a mock air of superiority accompanying his jest. "Refined, you say?" I countered, flicking a spoon his way as it sauced a thin mist of olive oil in the air, landing at the corner of his mouth. "You seem very unrefined right now." "Touché," he replied, brushing off the errant oil with the back of his hand, but clearly enjoying the rapport. As we continued our culinary duel, the sizzling of garlic led my heart to rise, infusing the kitchen with hints of romance. The air thickened with anticipation, each playful jab a brushstroke against the canvas of mutual attraction. But beneath the surface of our jovial exchanges lay something deeper, a tension neither of us was willing to acknowledge openly. The dish finally plated, I poured a delicate stream of herbed oil atop the risotto, marveling as it glistened. I turned, glancing at Corbin. "Prepare yourself," I said dramatically, "for culinary awakening." "I'm not sure if I'm more excited about the food or what's happening between us," he murmured, his eyes locking with mine in an intimate gaze. "Just remember, awakening can happen in unexpected ways." I served him a plated portion, daring him to take the first bite. "I'm quite brave," he said, the challenge clear in his voice again. He tasted the dish. A slow moment lingered as his eyes closed in appreciation. Bliss washed over his features. "Not too shabby?" I asked, feigning a casual demeanor but feeling the weight of his rapture. "More than that," he said, looking up at me, setting down the plate with reverence. "You've ensnared my senses." Heat coursed through my veins, awakening a boldness I hadn't known existed. "Glad to hear I'm doing better than just satisfactory," I replied, my voice teasing, but a quiver of vulnerability slipped in. "Unlike some, I take pride in my work." "Take pride, yes, but I think you're holding back." His comment hung between us, a challenge that stung because it was true. "Maybe." I avoided his gaze, the craving for acceptance clashing with my fear of leaving myself exposed too soon. "Let's not linger on what's not said. I want to know you better." "I can't just put my heart on a plate for you," I answered, leaning against the countertop, excitement and anxiety curling like smoke within me. "Then let me help you peel those layers back," he said gently, but there was an intensity that laced his words, turning them into an invitation I felt myself drawn toward. "Peeling layers back, Corbin?" I smirked, wanting to deflect. "That's a chefy metaphor I can't resist. A bit suggestive, don't you think?" "Only if you want it to be," he replied, stepping closer. Something vibrated in the air, and it gave me pause. I need to grab dessert. I excused myself, heart thudding, but the exchange had shaken me. Uncertainty scratched at the edges of my confidence as I considered what I wanted. "I might come with you," Corbin said, following, the tone of his voice as rich as any dish I'd ever created. With a flourish, I opened the fridge, revealing a carefully assembled platter of decadent mini cheesecakes, infused with berry relishes. Perfect for getting your digestion in order after all that bold food. And I'm sure your refined palate can handle this. Amara, he murmured, his gaze narrowing as he observed the way I poured flavor into each tiny cake. Even your cheesecakes seem to have a story. What's all this really about? The invitation in his tone shimmered beneath my defensiveness. This dish, I asked, fingers brushing over the smooth surface of the cheesecake. It's about exploiting the sweetness of life in tiny doses. Sort of like emotions? He finished for me, his voice lowering. Because it's all in moderation, ain't it? Exactly. My stomach twisted at the suggestion, the emotions swirling like meringue in the air, sweet yet fragile. Tell me, Amara, how do you navigate these flavors without letting them choke you? Not always successfully, I'm afraid, I admitted, feeling exposed again. Every taste comes at a price. You never know when the next sip might be too bitter. I get that. His eyes flickered, shadows playing against his strong features. Corbin, I'm not here to bare my soul. No? And you think we're going to stand around making mini cheesecakes indefinitely? He shot back, the playful edge returning. I guess not, I replied, crossing my arms and leaning against the counter, trying to regain my footing. They say romance functions on tension. Romance? I'm clear that this is a culinary endeavor. Keep calling it that, and I'll unveil my next course. I waved the platter, emphasizing the act of defending my culinary honor with brio. Before I could fully challenge him, he moved into my space. The flames of the kitchen flickered in our eyes, elevating the heat between us. Oh, I'm sure there's more for me to discover. Not if I don't want you to. My voice dipped low, caught between defiance and intrigue. Then why do we keep playing this dance, he asked, his voice low and textured like a well-worn recipe. Because you're exhausting, I laughed, nervous. One moment you're this elusive, charming billionaire, and the next you come at me with all this intensity that's maddening. Maddening, is it? He sought to close the distance, but I stepped away. Keep munching on those desserts and you might just find the answer, I said, retreating to the fridge once more, needing to gather myself amid the electric tension that had risen between us. I won't chase you forever, Amara. The challenge in his voice, a promise layered with something deeper, curled my heartstrings. Yet behind those words lay an unspoken truth. I hesitated little moments too long for comfort, my breath so quick it felt loud in the silence of the room. As I faced him again, a surge of vulnerability broke loose among the layers of resistance I had built. My heart ached to reach out, to mend the thin veil of distance we had crafted between us. We were two forces drawing closer, no longer entirely certain of where the culinary ended and the personal began. Tell me, Corbin said, shifting back into something more intimate, fearlessly pushing the boundaries. What is it that you truly desire? Maybe, just maybe, I whispered, my defenses crumbling under the weight of his gaze, as I took a step forward. I want to be seen, fully, without barriers. Then I will see you, Amara, he promised, the sincerity in his voice wrapping around me like his warmth. But the moment teetered on an unseen precipice, and somewhere within, dread stirred with manifestation. A flicker of doubt sparked, a reminder of the secrets lurking in the shadows of his past. I would have to remember. With Corbin Langston, nothing remained simple. That evening, as tensions continued to blossom around us, I found myself lost in the exhilarating messiness of it all. The air was charged with chemistry, teasing forth something extraordinary and unnerving. As we navigated through laughter, heated moments, and delectable offerings, my heart carved a path dangerously close to the truth. And yet, as I looked at Corbin, the imperfection of our growing intimacy suggested more than just an evening spent in culinary delight. It whispered of a genuine awakening, both in the kitchen and beyond. But could a heart prepared for the flavors of ambition endure the unexpected spices of yearning? Let's cook together again tomorrow, I said, allowing the warmth of potential to envelop me against the uncertainty. I think we have much more to explore. Indeed, he replied, eyes glimmering with promise. But don't spoil the surprise. We can't give it all away too soon. And I couldn't help but wonder, in this game of complex flavors and burgeoning passions, was I ready to open the floodgates of what could follow? Chapter 2: The Power of Presence. I stepped outside into the early morning air, the aromas of the ocean mingling with the earthy scent of the island's lush foliage. The sun was still playing coy behind the clouds, and the thick humidity wrapped around me like a soak shawl, heavy yet thrilling. I stood on the edge of the property where white sand met emerald grass, each blade glistening with morning dew. The ocean was restless today, crashing against the rocks with a rhythm that spoke of untamed energy, a warning, or maybe a promise. It was there, amidst the sound of waves that surged and recoiled, that I felt him approach. Corbin Langston was a force of nature, commanding in both presence and spirit. The moment he stepped onto the terrace, it was as though the temperature rose a few degrees, filling the air with an electric charge that pulled at the edges of my sanity. He wore a tailored white linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms dusted with a slight sheen of perspiration. I could almost taste the salt in the air from the ocean, could almost feel the sun begin to seep into my skin, both forbidding and tempting. "Morning, Amara. Fancy a swim?" His voice roamed through the air like music, layered with a richness that rumbled deep in my core. I wasn't ready to respond, not while feeling the full weight of his smirk pressing against my carefully crafted walls. "Swim? Barely made it past breakfast," I replied, my words laced with playful sarcasm. "Besides, who jumps into the ocean at this ungodly hour?" The sunlight broke free from its cloudy prison just then, illuminating his face, and I caught the glimmer in his eyes, mischief mixed with something more profound. "I do," he countered, taking a step closer. "You see, Amara, it's not just about the act of swimming, it's about what it represents. Independence, fearlessness." He let the words hang in the air, thicker than the humidity. "Or perhaps it's about showing off." I quirked my eyebrow, refusing to yield to his charm. Corbin gave a laugh that was smoky and deep, the kind that reverberated through my belly and made my skin tingle in the most distracting of ways. He stepped even closer, the space between us a taut line that felt ready to snap. "Is that jealousy I detect?" "Hardly," I shot back, though my heart quickened. "Jealousy would imply I care how you look without your shirt. You and your perfect abs." "Perfect? Oh, come now, Amara. I thought we were past such petty judgments. We're here for a culinary paradise, not an anatomy lesson." His gaze held mine, the depth of his dark eyes mingling with brimming pools of laughter and challenge. I wanted to dive into them, to explore whatever dark currents lay beneath that confident surface. "There's nothing to be jealous of," I insisted, my tone sharper than I intended. "You might as well be a model in the latest swimwear catalog." Corbin folded his arms, smug satisfaction playing at the corner of his mouth. "That I'm just a pretty face? Amara, you're underestimating the complexity of my being." "Ah, yes. Your intricate beings like what exactly? The brooding billionaire hiding a fondness for yoga and puppy videos?" My laughter spilled out, breaking through the tension. "Oh, come on. If I told you that I like puppies, your heart would just melt." He leaned forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "And let's not forget, I have a weakness for pasta. You'd be wise to keep those in the kitchen. A well-fed man is a happy man after all." Talking about food when you're this insufferable? I couldn't help but grin. "What do you want? Some buttercream icing on your ego?" That might be a start. He straightened up, the playful banter giving way for a moment to an intensity that made my breath falter. "But you, Amara, you've yet to offer me something that sets my heart ablaze." I opened my mouth, ready to retort, when his phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket, shattering the moment. Corbin's expression shifted immediately, business overtaking levity. "Sorry, I need to take this." "Of course, by all means, Go save the world, Corbin, I said sarcastically, watching as he stepped away, the sparkle in his eyes dimming momentarily. I turned, pretending to admire the ocean. A wave lapped at my feet, cool and refreshing against the heat of the sun. But my thoughts clashed like tempestuous tides, the gales of attraction battling fierce reluctance. I tried to push down the questions swirling about his intentions. Was I merely a tool for his culinary exploits? A dish to be mastered before moving on to the next? I wasn't sure how long I stood there lost in machinations of my mind, until the laughter of my friends brought me back to reality. Mia, with her easy grace, strolled onto the terrace, a brightly colored beach towel draped over her shoulder, laughter dancing in her voice. There you are. We thought we'd lost you to a runaway wave or some wild sea creature. Is Corbin trying to impress you, or are you trying to impress him? What are you implying? I asked, faking indignation. Please, it's glaringly obvious. Mia grinned, her dreadlocks bouncing with each step. Your chemistry has ignited a forest fire. Sparks can be seen from space, practically burning the barbecue chicken we have later. Chemistry? That's rich coming from someone who can't help but notice it when being pursued by a man who clearly has a ladder to reach. He's a billionaire, Amara. You don't just date a man like that casually. Dating? We're not there. It's just a professional arrangement, and the kitchen is our common ground. Ah, sweet naive Amara. She clucked her tongue, her eyes sparkling with mischief. If I have learned anything from the brilliant chefs I've met, it's that the kitchen is where intimacy brews faster than the sauce. He may be cooking you into a corner you won't want to escape. It's not like that. I folded my arms, unwilling to give in to her teasing. Oh, really? Her eyes sparkled with interest. So, you're telling me that when you look at him, you don't see an ocean of potential? That it doesn't feel like a plunge into something exhilarating and utterly terrifying? I hesitated, the truth of her words stirring in me, raw and uneasy. It's complicated. At that, she made a dramatic gesture, as if I had spilled a family secret. There's the magic word, complicated. Love that ambiguity, especially when it's about falling for a man who likely absolutely adores the chase. Adore the chase? Is that all I am to him? I felt a sudden wave of frustration washing over me. Every conversation about food, every moment of this back and forth, what does it lead to? He's playing games. Or maybe this is the moment you stop being on the sidelines. Mia, focus. We're here for the culinary experience, remember? I snapped, though a part of me felt the truth of what she said. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. Look, I get it. You're afraid. But you deserve more than just your achievements, Amara. You deserve someone who challenges you in ways you've yet to explore. Before I could respond, Corbin returned, his phone still buzzing as he stepped back onto the terrace. He looked as if the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders. I have to. He struggled for the right words. There's an issue I need to resolve. Work? Mia asked pointedly. Always work? Business doesn't wait, he replied, casting a quick glance at me, mischief replaced by gravity. Never does it? I remarked softly, trying to mask my disappointment with sarcasm. His gaze met mine, and I could see the war of emotions in his expression. But neither does desire. The intensity of his statement cut through the humid air, igniting the tension once more. Mia, sensing the storm brewing, retreated to the kitchen with a knowing smile, leaving us standing in a bubble of heated silence. It was as if the world fell away, making way for the unsaid, the unacknowledged truths swirling between us. Amara, Corbin began, stepping into my space again. I didn't mean to imply I'm just about business. I don't have interest in being just a muse for your culinary experiment, I interrupted, an unexpected fire flaring in my chest. I'm not here to simply inspire your great plans or provide comfort food. Is that what you think? His voice turned low and shaped an edge of disbelief. I didn't arrange for you to come here to exploit your talent. Your talents, your spirit, they're intoxicating. So was your invitation, it seems. I clipped back defiantly. Corbin sighed, those depths simmering now, and for a heartbeat, I felt vulnerable in the face of his seriousness. The storm mirrored above us, dark clouds rolling in as the wind picked up speed. I wanted to believe him, to cut through the tension, to dive into the depths of this chemistry throttling between us. You don't know me entirely, Amara. His voice lowered, almost pleading. There's so much more beneath the surface. I didn't just have you flown here for culinary expertise. You're an extraordinary. His eyes flicked down, searching mine. In ways you don't see. The air thickened, filled with unspoken longing, and carried a weight that was both exhilarating and terrifying. I wanted to close the distance, to surrender, but I couldn't. Not yet. This dance we were engaged in was far more intricate than that, and I found myself wanting to tease it out, to discover what secrets lay beneath, while slowly unraveling my need for autonomy. As the clouds hung heavy with possibility, filled with unsaid words and electric tension, I took a step back. Let's see what the storm brings, Corbin. Indeed. He mirrored my retreat, our wishes warring against one another until the comings and goings of our hearts were unmistakable. The shadows of our exchange ran deep against the brightening sun, and I couldn't help but wonder. Once this storm settled and clarity took root, would we both emerge unscathed? You and I whispered, my voice faltering in the charged silence, we're going to face a tempest. The wind picked up, howling against the sultry heat, and I could feel it twist around us, wrapping us in uncertainty. As we lingered in that charged atmosphere, two souls caught amidst the clash, I realized the power of presence is a tempest all its own. Chapter 3. Kitchen Playfulness. The sun had barely breached the horizon, painting the kitchen with strokes of soft lavender and gold. I found the kitchen was my sanctum, my realm of creation, even in the crisp silence before the world woke. Fresh basil clung to my fingers as I tore the vibrant leaves, its perfume releasing a grassy sweetness that filled the air. It was a slight departure from yesterday's unexpected challenge, yet today felt charged with an energy buzzing just beneath the surface. Are you going to make a salad today, or are we sticking with your famed whatever I find in the fridge approach? Corbin leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching my every move with an expectant grin. There was a delightful sparkle in his coffee-brown eyes that seemed to both challenge and tease me. I smirked, but then feigned a serious demeanor. You underestimate the complexity of whatever I find in the fridge. It has layers, like an onion, but with better taste. He laughed, and that sound, rich and warm, buzzed around me like raw honey melting in a sunny afternoon. All I'm saying is a stellar chef should not resort to desperation. A salad needs a heart, a soul. You've got to infuse it with intent. Intent? Are you giving me a cooking lesson, Mr. Langston? I thrust the basil at him playfully, and he held up his hands in mock surrender, laughter dancing between us. Please, if you can't take advice from a billion-dollar culinary connoisseur, I don't know what to tell you. He returned the banter, his inflection dripping with sarcasm, then let out a feigned gasp. What if I like my salads with, boring iceberg lettuce? Now you've gone too far. I scowled dramatically, waving my knife, a playful threat. Just wait, when I make my heirloom tomato salad, you'll be begging for seconds. He moved closer, a hint of challenge crackling in the air between us like lightning in a paper sky. You think you can impress me with some tomatoes? Amara, I'd practically invented the heirloom. Even with my senses alight, the heat radiating from him sent a shiver down my spine, and for a moment, the kitchen faded away. I set the knife down, feigned nonchalance, and tried to summon an air of confidence that I was not sure I truly possessed. We'll see who has the better palate. A contest of flavors. Winner gets what? His gaze locked onto mine, intensity burning bright. A dinner at a Michelin star restaurant of the winner's choice? I'll let you know if I can fit you in with my exclusive friends. Now that's a tempting lure, I admitted, smirking, even as a wave of uncertainty washed over me. Our banter was flirty electricity, sparking more than just playful jibes about recipes. It was threading an intricate web of something deeper, something unresolved simmering at the back of my mind. Just then, Mia, our bartender-turned-chef assistant, strode in carrying an armful of fresh produce from the gardens. She dropped the crate on the counter with a clattering thud, and the crash pulled us from our heated gaze. "Did someone say heirloom tomatoes? I knew I heard my favorites," she remarked, heaving a sigh of satisfaction as she fanned the fragrant leaves of arugula that would soon grace our culinary concoctions. "What's the plan, Amara? And Corbin, are you here to help, or just to sabotage another beautiful dish?" I raised an eyebrow at him. "Good question. What's your angle, Corbin? You just here to critique?" "I'm the judge," he replied, a knowing grin spreading across his handsome face. "Well, Mr. Judge, my kitchen, my rules," I retorted, wanting nothing more than to draw him into this playful competition. "How about you toss those tomatoes and actually help? I'm beginning to think this is a conspiracy against my impeccable culinary talents." He laughed, throwing his arms wide theatrically in a way that showcased his dexterous build. "Can't a billionaire catch a break in his own kitchen?" "Only if you stop looking for flaws in everything I make," I shot back, a smile blooming on my lips despite my effort to remain defiant. "Perfection is a matter of subjective taste, after all." "Good thing we have expert tastes around here, right, Mia?" Corbin winked, eliciting a giggle from her as she sifted through the tomatoes, deciding which to array on a platter. "Back me up here, Mia. Amara's got to realize that not all palates can take in her audacious combinations," he said, but his tone was light, relishing our little duel. "Maybe you're just afraid of new flavors." My tone shifted, playfully accusatory. "Like a toddler who wants their mac and cheese every night." "I am not afraid of flavor," he interjected, picking up a tomato, inspecting it as if it bore the secrets of the universe. "I just prefer flavors that don't assault my senses and induce telepathic powers." Mia burst into laughter, shaking her head. "You two are ridiculous. I can neither confirm nor deny that one of you could scare me off with food. Just pick a tomato already." With exaggerated solemnity, Corbin selected a tomato, holding it up triumphantly. "Take heed. This is perfection, a tomato born for greatness." He chucked it playfully at me, and I caught it with ease, laughter spilling from my lips. "Perfect tomatoes deserve perfect dishes," I shot back. "And if you're lucky, I might just give you a taste of flavor harmony." Just then, the playful atmosphere shifted as a phone buzzed insistently on the counter. I turned to see Corbin's expression tighten as he immediately picked it up, eyes briefly narrowing. "What's wrong?" I asked, catching the change in his demeanor. The levity faded like a summer breeze. "It's just business," he said tersely, his charm faltering, fingers gripping that phone as if it were a lifeline. "Business doesn't come before creativity," I challenged, feeling a pang of jealousy at the thought of anything or anyone pulling him away from this moment. "Especially not in my kitchen." He shot me an incredulous glance, clearly unprepared for the intensity of my words. "No, of course not. It's just," he hesitated, "an investor. They're pushing for results." "Then take care of it," I said, hearing the edge in my voice. "But don't dismiss what's happening here. Don't let business override everything else." Corbin placed the phone back on the counter, the light in his eyes clouded with frustration. "You don't get it. This is a volcanic endeavor. Everything we're doing could change the culinary landscape. I can't just walk away." His words hung heavy in the air, clashing against my rising tide of insecurity. "You think I don't appreciate ambition?" I snapped, the sharpness of my retort shocking even me. "I see how hard you work, but you can't keep pressing, Corbin. All of this," I waved my hands indicating the kitchen, the ingredients, us, "it matters." "What I do does matter, Amara," he shot back, voice rising. "Especially for you. The exposure, the potential." "You think this is just about potential?" I could feel heat pooling in my cheeks, frustration mingling with something else entirely, a yearning to pull him back into my orbit. "Don't you see? It's not just the food, it's this connection between us." That connection hesitated for a heartbeat in the tension. His expression shifted, brow furrowed, as if he were finally contemplating my words. Maybe the banquet is waiting for your magic touch, but that doesn't mean my feelings are on the back burner. I realized my voice had softened, taking in the breadth of his conflict. Amara, He was taken aback, vulnerability crackling softly in the electric air, but my heart raced, the argument fading into the background. Sometimes I wonder if the grandiosity deludes you, I said quietly, daring to approach him. What if the real magic is here, in the simple tasks we perform together, not somewhere else? Have you always been that insightful? He asked, genuine curiosity lighting his features. Forcing me to assert my point has that effect, I replied. We fell into a quiet moment, the air thick with words left unsaid, as something simmered just under the surface. Then, shaking off our tension, I turned back to the produce we had strewn about. Okay, if you're going to be a judge, you need more than just a tomato. Give me your best shot in the flavor round. He met my gaze, a wild glint in his eyes returning. What did you have in mind, my fiery chef? Let's infuse those heirlooms into something explosive. But unlike you, they should be packed with nothing short of passion. Sounds like a challenge, he said, the lightness returning to his voice. And I'm absolutely up for the task. I grabbed a handful of arugula, tossing it into the air, watching it float and tumble like a dance. Then let's make some culinary fireworks. The chemical tension of the moment didn't dissipate entirely, but I could see him fielding it with newfound resolve. Just remember, Amara, if you lose this round, next time, I'll let my tomato judge your entire menu. Only if I can judge your taste in wine. Deal? Deal. We moved as one, a collaborative effort in culinary creativity, with laughter echoing through the kitchen, sparking heat amid the simmering undertones of our intricate dance. Even with the unpredictable feuds still rippling beneath us, the warmth of connection pulled us back, and the kitchen felt alive again. As I poured a drizzle of olive oil into the mixing bowl, the peppery fragrance swirled in the air, and I caught him sneaking glances, the weight of his presence igniting a blaze within. Amara, he said suddenly, seriousness threading his tone, this will be amazing. I know it will. And it will be ours, I whispered, the words hanging in the air as I felt the hum of our chemistry reigniting, urging me closer, the electric charge of our playful repartee transforming into something deeper, more profound. And before I could overthink the moment, I stepped closer, our bodies moving in tandem, and I leaned in. But don't think this means I'll go easy on you. Wouldn't dream of it, he answered, his breath brushing against my lips, and the space between us shrank to nothingness. Chapter 4. Secrets Unveiled. The air was heavy with the scent of thyme and sautéing garlic as I adjusted the flame beneath the pan, the heat creating a dance of flickering shadows against the pastel blue walls of the kitchen. I closed my eyes for a brief moment, letting the aromatic waves sink into me, each note a tactile memory I used to define my love for cooking. But as I stirred, something in the atmosphere shifted. The stormy sky outside mirrored the tension wrapping itself around me, thick, suffocating, electric. You're lost in thought again, Corbin said, his voice smooth as dark chocolate. He leaned against the doorframe, those piercing green eyes of his locking onto mine. I dropped the wooden spoon onto the counter with a clatter, the sound echoing in the spacious kitchen. Just trying to keep my focus, I replied, wiping my brow with the back of my hand, trying to ignore the way every nerve in my body responded to his mere presence. You said you wanted a simple ratatouille, not an existential crisis. His lips quirked up in that infuriatingly enchanting smile. You know I prefer complexity behind the scenes. It's the essence of great cooking. At that moment, I wished the walls around us could confide in me, offering secrets they had witnessed. But this wasn't about my cooking. It never was. Is that why you brought me here, for the complexity? I set aside the vegetables, turning to face him. A single bead of sweat trickled down my back, and I tried to feign indifference. Among other reasons, he replied, stepping closer. The scent of cedarwood and spearmint enveloped me as he crossed the threshold into my sanctuary, shattering the barrier between our worlds. Before I could analyze his words, a sharp knock at the door interrupted, shattering the almost tangible intimacy hanging in the humid air. Corbin's expression shifted instantly, his mask slipping just enough for me to catch a glimpse of something raw. "I'll get it." I stepped away, but he reached out, his fingers brushing against my wrist, leaving a trail of tension, igniting an uncharted spark. "Amara, wait." He hesitated, his brow knitting ever so slightly. "Let me handle this." The floorboards creaked beneath his confident stride. I remained rooted, caught between a palpable heat and an unsolvable riddle. The rain began to patter, heavy droplets orchestrating a chaotic symphony against the glass. "What if it's someone important?" I called out, trying to sound nonchalant while grappling with the unease twisting inside me. "It's not," he said with a voice laced in authority, unyielding as granite. Moments later, he swung open the door, revealing Marcus, a man so charmingly underwhelming he drew the attention away from the tempestuous energy threatening to erupt between Corbin and me. "Perfect timing," Marcus exclaimed, shaking off raindrops like a golden retriever. "I'll take that ratatouille now. What's the occasion, Corbin? Are we having a party I wasn't invited to?" "Just a quiet night," Corbin replied, dismissing Marcus with a flick of his wrist. "Perhaps you could help Amara instead?" The sarcasm was palpable, weaving through the air amidst Marcus's clueless grin. "Sure, if she doesn't mind a little distraction." I couldn't help but smirk. "Distraction is always welcome, Marcus. Just don't set the kitchen on fire in the process." "Hey, I'll have you know I've got a knack for flames." He stepped closer, leaning dramatically against the counter, casting a sideways glance at Corbin. "I excel at birthday cake. Last year, it was vanilla with an extra tornado of passion fruit." "Sounds delightful, but I have a culinary disaster that needs assessing right here at the moment," I said, pushing a chopping board toward him. "Right." Marcus jumped into action, cubing an eggplant with surprising dexterity, while Corbin watched like a hawk. His protective aura hadn't subsided. It radiated tension, muscles taut beneath his fitted shirt, the lines of his jaw shifting ever so slightly, as if he were ready to pounce. "Why don't you tell us more about that disaster, Amara?" Corbin said, his eyes narrowing. "Don't involve me in your melodrama, Corbin," I countered with a laugh, but my heart raced at his zealous gaze. "I'm merely fulfilling my chef duties here." Chef duty with a touch of drama sounds like every culinary show I've ever seen. He winked, straightening up. "And just what are we doing with that eggplant, Marcus?" "We are discussing the intricacies of taste, how I prefer my eggplant as a metaphor for life," Marcus declared with exaggerated flair while I rolled my eyes. 4 months in kitchens all over Europe, and that's what you've chosen as your life metaphor?" I laughed. "Oh, you think I'm serious? Of course I'm not. It's just delicious fun to see Corbin's brow furrow." He winked at me. However, the laughter faded as impeccable tension suffused the kitchen once more. I sensed Corbin's eyes darting between Marcus and me, weighing something unsaid, something more than just culinary criticisms. Jealousy? Distrust? Marcus had the audacity to crack an inappropriate joke about me cooking dinner for him instead of Corbin. But it fell flat in the loaded atmosphere. Corbin's expression hardened, his lips forming into a tight line. The simmering darkness behind his emerald eyes sent a heat wave coursing through me. With a sharp glance, he turned to Marcus. "Why don't you check on the supplies in the pantry?" Marcus's face fell slightly, sensing the change in the mood. Sure. What do you need? Fresh thyme? Shallots?" "Just get what I asked for." Corbin's tone brooked no argument, and Marcus left as if he'd been dismissed from a courtroom. Once the door swung shut, the silence felt overwhelmingly charged. I turned away to gather my thoughts, but Corbin moved in front of me, blocking out the world outside. The air shimmered around him, thick and tantalizing. "Amara," he started, his voice dropping to a low tone that curled around my skin like smoke. "You need to be careful around others. They might not understand." "Or maybe you just don't want to share," I shot back, my heart racing. The sharpness in my voice surprised me. "Is that what this feels like?" His eyes captured mine, adding an undercurrent of vulnerability, a flash of something deeper swirling beneath the surface. "What do you think this is?" I stepped closer, drawn into his orbit, my anger shifting into a delicious pulse of excitement. Just a game for you? Is it a game for you? He shot back, his intensity ramping up, a storm against a storm. You think I orchestrated all this just to toy with you? I crossed my arms defensively, my pulse quickening. Didn't you? Every moment feels like it's guided by your unseen hand. Corbin's gaze ignited, a firestorm that left no room for ambiguity. Amara, if I wanted to toy with you, I would have chosen a less risky game. He stepped closer, the heat radiating off him enough to give away his own underlying tension. But I'm here, committed to something real. Real? I scoffed, but the taunt lacked conviction. Desires bubbled beneath my skin, contradicting my words. Do you think those words hold weight after the way you manipulated our meeting? Manipulated, he chuckled, but his voice was dangerously low. I provided a platform for you to shine. That speaks volumes about how I see you. Oh, don't act like you're doing me a favor. My breath quickened as I clashed with the mirth in his tone. Your plans brought us together, but they didn't account for this. I motioned between us, my anger morphing into something dangerously close to desire. This? You calling my heart's intention into question? His face inched closer, barely a whisper away. You're afraid of what might happen if you surrender to it. And you think little of playing with fire, don't you? My heartbeat thudded louder and louder until nothing else mattered. The taut string between us snapped. Corbin engulfed me, crushing those breaths between us, and I melted into him, feeling the longing pulse stronger than fear. His lips hovered just above mine, not yet touching, exuding a quiet intensity like a secret, darkened and bound by trust. Tell me you want this, he demanded, his voice dripping with urgency. I want. My breath hitched as he captured my gaze, steadying me like the eye of a storm. I want. But as I started to lean in, the raw emotion suffocating me, something pulled back. In that moment of vulnerability, reality crashed in. A shadow flicked behind his eyes, a reminder of the secrets he kept, buried deeper than desire. Corbin, I can't, not yet. I broke free, fear simultaneously very real and intoxicating at the same time. His expression darkened, emotion knotting his brow before he stepped back, giving me the space I craved, yet my body yearned to close that gap again. You can't walk away because you are afraid of what's been ignited between us. Or maybe I've seen flames burn before, and it didn't end well, I shot back, tossing my head defiantly. The sudden look of confusion on his face stirred guilt in me, a desire to ease the storm swirling in his eyes, but the weight of understanding remained suspended between us. It won't burn you, he said softly, his breath hitching just enough to let me know he felt it too, the dread and desire. Trust me, Amara. I can't, Corbin, not with everything between us. The silence stretched taut. Outside, the rain beat against the windows like frantic fingers, an uninvited spectator to our tumult. You're right, Corbin finally said, his voice quieter than a whisper. Secrets linger longer than the promises we make. And with that, those daunting shadows of truth and unfulfilled passions entwined us both, promising that this battle was just beginning. Chapter 5. Confronting the Truth. Did you really think I'd never find out? My voice vibrated with an unsteady mix of anger and betrayal, echoing off the pristine white walls of Corbin's oceanfront villa, where the horizon met the twilight sky in a stunning clash of vermilion and indigo. The scent of saltwater and distant jasmine filled the air, yet the serenity of our surroundings only intensified the storm brewing between us. Corbin stood by the expansive glass doors, his back to me, as he faced the restless ocean. But I could see the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hands rested against the wood frame, with an intensity that reflected the tumult inside him. He turned slowly, a flash of vulnerability breaking through the facade of his calm demeanor. Amara, it wasn't like that, he began, his voice smooth but strained. Not like what? The words escaped like steam from a boiling kettle, hot and ready to explode. I approached, feeling every step reverberate with the weight of my confrontation. Not like you orchestrating my entire career just to have your personal chef? Is that what you meant? He finally faced me, his eyes dark and stormy, filled with a mixture of irritation and something deeper, something that tore at the edges of my resolve. I did it because I believe in your talent. You deserved a platform. A platform? I cut him off, laughter tinged with bitterness. You mean a stage where I'm your puppet? There's a difference, Corbin. Don't act like you don't love the opportunity, he challenged, stepping closer, a heat radiating off him that made my breath catch despite my rage. This was your dream. Yes, but not like this. I threw my hands up in frustration. You used me. This entire arrangement feels like a calculated move, not a genuine partnership. You let me think I was making choices when you were pulling the strings all along. Silence hung between us, a taut wire ready to snap. I heard the waves crash against the rocks, their rhythm mocking the chaos of my thoughts. I had trusted him, yet now I felt like a marionette, stripped of agency, and paraded before an audience I never wanted. Maybe I just wanted to be near you. His voice softened with a hint of vulnerability that sliced through my anger. You can't deny there's something between us. What am I supposed to do with that? I replied, hoping my tone could mask the flutter igniting within me. Would he weave an excuse as skillfully as he'd woven our lives together? Why should I trust you now? Because I'm not just your employer. I'm, what, the man who pulled me into your world to make me your plaything? I spat, words laced with resentment. Your love life, your partnership, it's all a lie, isn't it? Corbin's face hardened, his jaw clenched tight in response to my accusations. You think love is a lie? Every moment we spent together, every laugh shared, those weren't manufactured. Lies have a funny way of becoming truths, don't they? I shot back, unwilling to let go of my anger, even as a pulse of something deeper throbbed between us. I hated that it was still there, simmering beneath our confrontation. I can't allow you to reduce what we have like that, he said, voice dipping low, tinged with vulnerability. If you can't see that, then maybe you don't really want this. His words pierced through me, a challenge and a gut-wrenching reminder of my fears. Did I want this? This man, caught between shadows and light, was more than just a powerful figure. He stirred a tempest within me I barely understood. Do you think I'd be here if I didn't? I whispered, my voice wavering slightly. This life, this talent, it means everything to me, but the way you handle it, it feels like manipulation. Corbin stepped closer, invading the space between us with his presence. Warm, strong, electric. The truth is always painful, Amara. You know that as well as I do. I kept my gaze locked on his, searching for cracks in his steely confidence, feeling my breath quicken, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by an urge that clawed at the edges of my restraint. What if I do want this, Corbin? I said softly, a challenge cloaked in intimacy. The air thickened, charged with tension that was both tense and inviting. I felt like I stood at the edge of an abyss, daring to leap. Then let's stop pretending, he breathed, urgency threading through his words. Let's stop hiding behind our fears, Amara. What about your secrets? Secrets be damned. His tone shifted, simmering with both ferocity and fervor. I would risk everything for you. Before I fully grasped the implications of his words, I was rushing at him, our bodies colliding. A gasp of surprise slipped from my lips as his hands encircled my waist, pulling me closer, wrapping me in a cocoon of his warmth. There were no more accusations, no more barriers. The world outside faded into indistinction as his mouth crashed against mine, igniting a firestorm of need that swept through me. The kiss was demanding, yet gentle, a wild dance of our conflicting passions. My hands tangled in his hair, and I instinctively rose on my toes, every nerve ending humming alive. I desired him, every piece of him, while the anger still flickered faintly in my heart, a hot ember ready to be stoked into flames. Corbin's touch was insistent but careful, as if he were rediscovering the contours of my body, mapping each curve with reverence. His hands slipped beneath my hair, cupping my neck, steadying me as I surrendered to the dizzying pull of his intensity. The kiss deepened, turning possessive. I felt as though he were pouring every emotion he'd ever kept sheltered between us into that single moment. I moaned softly against him, my back arching into him as currents of desire shocked me senseless. Each caress sent ripples of warmth through me, washing away the remnants of doubt. "Tell me you want this," he murmured against my lips, his voice low and thick with urgency. "I want this," I gasped, feeling lightheaded, clarity burning through the haze of uncertainty. "But I won't be used again, Corbin." "Then don't be," he declared, his gaze steady, fierce. "Stay here with me. Let each moment be ours, not just a means to an end." With a fierce groan, I tugged him closer, feeling the warmth of him melt my constraints, and we stumbled backward into the living room, a haze of primal need enveloping us like the dusk settling outside. There was misplaced fervor in our bodies, and as we tumbled onto the plush cream-colored couch, I tangled my fingers into the fabric, clinging to it but also to him. I wanted to give in, to surrender to this dangerous whirlwind, but another part of me screamed that I was risking everything: my heart, my craft, my newfound sense of self. He hovered over me, his breath mingling with mine, a soft weight anchoring me as the world narrowed to just us. "Is this truly what you want?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion, brushing his thumb against my jaw in a way that made my heart race anew. "Yes," I responded breathlessly, before pulling him down to claim his lips again, drowning every trace of argument in a storm of desire. And just like that, we let the chaos carry us away. The arguing, the jealousy, the lies, and cross a threshold deep into something raw and undeniable. Passion ignited, exploding in waves as we fell into the depths of each other's fervent embrace. Each heartbeat echoed with unspoken vows, tethered by desire, dripping with layers of truth yet to be uncovered. In the dance of our souls, I comprehended, if only for a fleeting moment, real intimacy required trust both in one another and oneself. As I clung to him, lost in a storm of tangled sheets and surrender, I knew from then on, confronting the truth could shatter yet also mend. In our world of culinary wonders and unchecked ambition, we were building something more, an intoxicating blend of passion, fear, and a desire for something greater than ourselves. "Where do we go from here?" I whispered between kisses, heart pounding with uncertainty, yet wholly aflame. Corbin pulled back slightly, his eyes dark with promise and possibility. "Where we always wanted to. Together." Chapter 6. A Ghost from the Past. I stood in the kitchen, the aroma of roasted garlic and fresh thyme swirling around me like an old, comforting blanket. The golden light of the island sun filtered through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the slate countertops. My hands moved deftly, slicing ripe heirloom tomatoes, their vibrant colors igniting my senses. The sweet, tangy fragrance harmonizing with the earthy scent of the herbs. In this moment, I felt invincible, lost in the rhythm of my craft. But then came the sound of footfalls that broke my concentration, a myriad of emotions uninvited and unwelcome. I turned, knife poised in my hand, heart skipping a beat. "Amara," the voice was like sharp glass against velvet. "David, my ex." His tall figure filled the doorway, a silhouette of chaos in a shadowed frame. He wore that smug smile that once made me weak in the knees, and suddenly I felt any confidence I built collapse inward like a careless soufflé. "What are you doing here?" I managed, my voice steady but thin. "I heard you'd been cooking here. Thought you might want some help," he replied, stepping closer, the memory of us eerie and vivid in my mind. Just like that, the past was clawing its way back into my neatly curated life, like a ghost refusing to be exorcised. I forced a smile, but I could feel the heat creeping into my cheeks. "I don't need help. I'm fine." David chuckled, that familiar, irritating laugh that made me remember all the laughter that had filled our time together and all the tears. "Oh, come on. You can't still be mad at me for the way things ended." Mad? Yes, I was furious, but it was more complicated than that. I felt a war unfolding within me, an urge to slam the kitchen door shut behind him, while at the same time grappling with the memories we had shared in this very space. Before I could respond, Corbin strolled in, fully in his element, a lion in a jungle of mere mortals. He exuded power and focus, even dressed casually in dark linen that emphasized his broad shoulders. The moment his eyes met mine, everything shifted. "Culinary sovereignty, I see," he said, smirking, before his gaze fell on David. The atmosphere thickened like robust stock simmering on the stove. "And who do we have here?" David's eyes wavered, caught off guard by Corbin's imposing presence. At that moment, I could see both men sizing each other up, a low electric tension simmering beneath a veneer of calm. "Just an old friend," I said hastily, flicking my eyes back to Corbin. "David, this is Corbin Langston, my employer." "Ah, the millionaire chef," David retorted, raising an eyebrow. "Must be nice to wrap your life around someone else's ambitions." Corbin's expression remained inscrutable, but I sensed the muscles in his jaw tighten. "I prefer to think of it as collaboration rather than dependence." "Collaboration? That's an interesting term for someone who seems to relish control." David advanced, arrogance sneaking into his tone. Before I could intervene, I saw Corbin straighten, his voice lower but laced with steel. "I suggest you leave, David." My heart raced, a mix of fear and indignation. "This isn't right, Corbin. I can handle this." "I know you can, but you shouldn't have to," Corbin shot back, the protective instinct spilling from him as he stepped closer to me. "I'll handle him." David looked between us, and something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, perhaps jealousy? "Oh, you two are really cozy, aren't you?" I clenched my fists, trying to balance my anger with the chaos David stirred within me. "This isn't about you, David. You have no idea what I'm building here." "I have a pretty good idea, Amara. You're playing house with a man who only wants to use you." Each word was like a knife to my heart, but then I sensed Corbin's strong hand on my shoulder, grounding me. "She's not a pawn in my game. She's a partner, and I'm grateful every day for her talent." "Is that how you honestly feel?" I shot at Corbin, searching his eyes for truth. The room grew quiet, heavy with unspoken words, a charged moment between us. He didn't falter. "You know that, Amara. You're the heartbeat of this place." "See, he doesn't even want to admit it," David pressed, fingers twitching as if itching to provoke. "He's built a gold cage for you, Amara." I stepped back. "Stop it. Just stop." My voice shook as the hurt rose in sinister waves, battling against my burgeoning confidence. "You don't get to say that about him, or me." A silence thickened, and the tension morphed, curling like steam around us. The kitchen that had once been my sanctuary felt claustrophobic with the weight of rivalry. "Amara," Corbin said softly, turning to me and capturing my gaze. "I trust you to make your own choices." But David was relentless. "Amara, don't act like you're okay with this. Look around. This isn't who you are. You're meant for more than cooking in paradise." "Yeah? And what do you think I'm doing?" I shot back, my heart thumping angrily. "This is me, David. I'm reclaiming my life, my craft. And if I choose to work with Corbin, that's my decision." "Or your distraction." His words were laced with venom, and I faltered for a second. Enough for him to press his advantage. "You were always better than this, better than him." My resolve wavered momentarily, but the unyielding light of Corbin's presence pulled me back. He stepped in front of me, a fortress of strength and conviction. Amara deserves to be here, not for me, but for herself. Before I could reply, David turned to Corbin, a smear of contempt painted across his features. "So you'll keep her smiling with your money while she ignores her true potential?" "Don't talk about what you don't understand," Corbin replied sharply, his voice a restrained growl. Do you think she's some damsel waiting for her savior? David laughed, a hollow, mocking sound. You really believe that, huh? You're fooling yourself. Enough, I yelled, heart pounding as both men's gazes snapped to me. In that moment, the fleeting echo of David's past clung to the air. Explosive tension thickening like sauce on a simmer. I'm done with this. I took a deep breath, striding towards David, refusing to let him shoulder me once more. I'm not yours to reclaim. I'm my own person, and you need to respect that. What about everything we had? His expression twisted with wounded pride. It wasn't enough. I faced him fully, the confidence I had built over the weeks bubbling to the surface. You don't get to waltz in here and disrupt my life because it makes you uncomfortable. With a flick of his wrist, he turned on his heel, the charming facade cracking for just a moment as he cast one last glance back. You're going to regret this. And then he was gone, the door swinging closed with an unsettling finality, leaving a tension that echoed in the vacuum he left behind. Amara. Corbin's voice trembled on the air, heavy with unasked questions. Don't, I whispered, stealing a glance into those compelling, stormy eyes. Please don't say anything. But Corbin was already stepping closer, his warmth enveloping me as the noise of betrayal evaporated into silence. In an instant, the kitchen transformed from a battleground into a sanctuary. I want you to know that I'll always protect you, that you matter to me. His voice was low and earnest, pulling me in closer, a lifeline amid the chaos spinning between us. Do you mean that? My voice was a hesitant whisper, every word laden with uncertainty. Yes, you're not just this temporary fix for me. I need you, Amara. I felt a spark ignite within me, something wild and desperate breaking free. Then show me. With that, Corbin surged forward, wrapping me tightly in his arms and crashing his mouth onto mine. The kiss was fierce, an explosion of pent-up emotions that shattered any lingering doubt. I tangled my fingers in his hair, feeling the rough, familiar texture beneath my fingertips. His hands roamed over my back, pulling me against him, the heat of our bodies igniting the air around us. The world melted away, replaced by the intoxicating rhythm of our pulse racing together. My heart raced, a heady dance of passion and need as we collapsed against the countertop. Our bodies fit together in an urgent, seamless embrace, the flavors of the kitchen mingling with the raw taste of hunger. There was an urgency about us, a need to bridge the gaps opened by hurt and accusations, to weave trust into a tapestry of something deeper. In a frenzy, we surrendered to the waves of desire, the chaos outside drowning beneath the beauty of our connection. Every kiss ignited a spark, a promise that propelled us beyond the conflict, filling me with the undeniable truth that I wasn't just alive in this moment. I was truly, vividly thriving. And as we lost ourselves in each other, the world tilted on its axis. I thought perhaps love was meant to be a fierce adventure, one unfurling like the blooms of those tomatoes I always cherished, wild and uncontainable. Later, as our breaths mingled, hearts still racing, I couldn't help but whisper, I'm done looking back. Corbin's fingers brushed my cheek, his gaze fierce and unwavering. Then let's see what's next, together. His words, laden with promise, sent chills down my spine, igniting the thrill of every unknown ahead. Chapter 7. Exploring Fantasies. The salty breeze tangled my hair, the sun casting a warm glow over the turquoise sea, a vibrant palate begging to be tasted. I let out a sigh, my breath swirling like the gentle lap of the waves against the hull of Corbin's sleek yacht. I could feel every fiber of my being pull toward the horizon, where the islands whispered secrets I longed to uncover. We were headed to Tavares Island, famous for its culinary treasures and decadent flavors. Yet it wasn't the promise of exotic spices that quickened my pulse. It was the sheer presence of Corbin beside me, his hawkish gaze focused on the waves, the remote islands he had meticulously charted. Just imagine the seafood we'll find there, he said, his voice a rich baritone that could conjure storms in my heart. I hear there's a local catch that would send any chef into a frenzy. Or it could be spoiled, I countered, playful challenge slipping into my tone. Remember last week with that shipment of heirloom tomatoes? An experiment for the ages, he replied with a crooked smile. We both learned something that day. It's what makes you brilliant. I looked at him, the sunlight haloing around his face. There was no denying his charm, the electric connection that sparked between us each time we exchanged a glance. But somehow, even amidst the sweetness of admiration, a hint of jealousy tugged at the corners of my heart. As we approached Tavares Island, I spotted a cluster of wooden shacks with vibrant murals and the promise of fresh ceviche drifting in the air. Could it be that there was something about me that made him want to show off? I brushed the thought away as we pulled closer to the dock and disembarked. "Race you to the market," Corbin shouted, his sneakers slapping the wooden planks beneath our feet. I shot off after him, laughter bubbling up as I pushed myself to move faster. Jesus, Amara, turn the brain off. I sprinted forward, fueled by the joy of the chase. As we reached the market, the explosion of colors and scents enveloped us. Ripe mangoes, spices mingling like strangers at a party, and the afternoon sun baking everything to perfection. "Ceviche bar over here," Corbin called out, grabbing my wrist and guiding me through the throng. "Let's just pick a few ingredients first," I suggested, fearing the impending distraction. How was I supposed to focus on the food with the intoxicating scent of Corbin's cologne brushing past me? But nothing screams inspiration like fresh fish marinated in lime, he teased back, the playfulness in his tone igniting a fire in me. We ventured through stalls bursting with tropical fruits and local offerings, but it was the coconuts that caught his eye. "What do you think?" He held one up with a challenge glimmering in his gaze. "Pity they don't have a pre-sliced option." I leaned closer, trying to catch the laughter in his eyes. "I'll let you do the honors." A challenge accepted. As he cracked the coconut with strong hands, releasing the sweet scent of coconut water, I couldn't help but admire his focus. It was in moments like this when I felt like I was feasting on something more than just food. I was tasting a glimpse of him, the depth hidden beneath his poised exterior. We spent the day in a delightful whirlwind, sampling everything from fresh guacamole to spicy tuna tartare, and each bite led us deeper into conversation. Every interaction was layered. Each word was a delightful dance. "Think we can handle cooking with these?" I asked, holding up a pair of fiery red peppers. The heat radiated between my fingers, igniting my imagination. Corbin grinned, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "I believe in embracing the heat." The insinuation hung between us, charged with unspoken desire. I bit my lip, the implications lighting a fizzling spark in my stomach. Later, the sun was beginning its descent when we found a small beachside shack, reminiscent of something out of a romantic novel, a rustic retreat hidden from the bustle. Vibrant flowers decorated the pillars wrapping around the place, and the sound of waves crashing came like a siren's call. "Shall we?" Corbin gestured as we settled into chairs with our selected treasures. "Let's," I said, savoring the moment, the backdrop, the thrill of collaboration. We transformed the fresh fish and vibrant vegetables into a culinary masterpiece. The kitchen, a sanctuary where our creativity flowed in a lively dance. Laughter reverberated through the air, each witty exchange revealing more of ourselves. "You call this concoction ceviche surprise?" he chuckled, scrutinizing my dish. "Why, are you shocked something this good could come out of my kitchen?" I shot back playfully, flipping my hair over my shoulder with confidence. "No, just inspired by your bravery," he admitted, a flash of seriousness dimming his eyes for a moment. That moment passed, but the air grew thick with intensity. I was leaning closer, entranced by the way his smile illuminated the closing dusk. Our culinary concoction simmered, though a different potency simmered between us. As we cleared the table, Corbin's arm brushed against mine, causing me to gasp at the electric touch that sent cascading warmth through my body. The delicious tension left unaddressed hung in the air, akin to the delectable notes of a perfectly paired wine. "Amara," he murmured, his gaze locking onto mine. "There's something utterly intoxicating about this moment, about you." A rush of vulnerability surged through me, calling to the very heart of my fears and desires. "You know, cooking can be an intimate act." "It can also be a thrill," he responded, stepping closer. With each steady inhale, mischief danced alongside the heartbeat of longing. I was aware of the swell of unspoken words and pent-up feelings as he brushed his thumb across my knuckles, seemingly deliberate yet carefree. "Show me what you mean," he challenged softly, his tone dipped in rich temptation. I took a step forward, my breath catching as the distance disappeared. The shadows of the setting sun enveloped us in a warm embrace, and I could feel the trust I had built with him enveloped me like a blanket. "Cooking can be therapeutic, you know," I said, leaning in more, the warmth of his breath coaxing the words from my lips. "It's not just about nourishing the body, but igniting the soul." His eyes roamed over my features, vulnerability and warmth igniting something primal within me. "Then let's unearth that fire." But outside the bubble we created, reality rushed back in. Intrusions from the past demanding their voice. "Curious if you'll be bold enough to keep it that way, though." Corbin's words hinted at something deeper. Intrigued, I tilted my head, narrowing the distance even further. "You doubt me?" "I want the Amara I know," he replied, that magnetic intensity pulling me in. I felt my heart beating wildly, the prospect of this moment balancing on the tips of our tongues. "And what if I were to show you more than you bargained for?" "Then consider me intrigued." The teasing remark hung between us, warm as the sun-kissed air, the essence of a burgeoning kinship, threatening to erupt into something wickedly beautiful. Was it the food weaving our stories together, or the alchemy summoned by our hearts? In the dimly lit shack, invisible barriers began to crumble as I leaned toward him, the scent of coconut and spices offering an unguarded intimacy. The moment he closed the distance between us, I felt the world fade. I was now in a realm where desire painted colors on my skin, igniting something that had waited too long to come alive. The kiss swept over me, enveloping us both, a blend of longing and sweetness that left me breathless. My hands tangled in his hair as our mouths danced. The electric connection surged between us like a slow burn, finally reaching its blaze. We parted, both gasping, the reality of our surroundings still lingering, yet completely diminished in the intensity of our connection. "Wow," I whispered, unable to mask the disbelief laced in my voice. "Just imagine if I hadn't spent all that time planning our culinary quest," he smirked, an amused glimmer in those deep brown irises. "Possibly lost to primal desires." "Primal desires, huh?" The playful tone hid the edge of reality's bite. Corbin leaned closer again, whispering against the shell of my ear. "Just wait for dessert." And just like that, as the air shimmered with the uncharted possibilities ahead, I felt an exhilarating sense of anticipation wrapping around my heart. The fireworks were only just beginning. What secrets lay ahead in our journey, and were we both ready to embrace the untamed nature of our explorations? The thrilling thought lingered long after the sun had set. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow that bathed the elegance of the dining room. A slight breeze fluttered through the open windows, bringing with it the faint scent of jasmine and the unmistakable tang of the ocean. I stood in the corner, fingers deftly arranging a charcuterie spread, each slice of rich prosciutto and tangy blue cheese meticulously placed next to delicate figs and artisan bread. Cooking was my sanctuary, my place of solace where I found mention of who I was, even when my heart felt like it was waging its own war. Yet in that moment, a shadow loomed over my culinary triumph. Corbin's intensity wrapped itself around me like the sheets of his bed over the past few nights. Familiar, intoxicating, and utterly threatening. I could feel his gaze on my back, a tangible presence that sent warmth creeping beneath my skin. Was it hunger for the food, or something deeper? Amara, this looks incredible. His voice cut through my thoughts, thoughtful and teasing. I could almost hear the smile it carried. I turned, meeting the weight of his dark chocolate eyes, so warm, yet so immeasurably deep. Thanks. I was inspired by what we talked about yesterday. Inspired by my culinary prowess? He chuckled, a deep, resonant sound that reverberated through me. I snorted, unable to suppress a smile. More like terrified by your standards. As he moved closer, each step seemed to pull me into a gravity of his charisma. The distance between us shrank, and my heart pounded like a war drum at the impending clash of our energies. His aura was magnetic, and it took every bit of strength not to lean into it and lose myself entirely. You've got nothing to be scared of, Amara, he said, standing uncomfortably close now. Don't you know how talented you are? I pretended to busy myself with the platter, fighting the heat rising within me. Ah, flattery. Are you buttering me up for something? With a playful glint in his eyes, he captured the side of my arm, turning me to face him fully. Just acknowledging the breathtaking meal you've crafted. But between us, I have to admit, I always find it amusing when you think you're not in control. Control? I scoffed lightly. That sounds so domineering. Is that a bad thing? He murmured as his dark brow arched. His proximity radiated a warmth that danced between us, a simmering tension I couldn't ignore. Sometimes it feels like you hide behind your cooking. It's hard to connect when you're behind that veneer. A weight in my chest surged as his words settled. He had a point, an unsettling one. I fell largely into the role I had built for myself, afraid to step out into the unknown. Is this what you wanted, Corbin? I asked, my voice dipping low, challenging. To break me down bit by bit? A flicker of vulnerability flashed across his features, quickly replaced with a calculated calmness. Hardly. I want you to feel free, Amara. Free to be you, the real you, not just the chef who dazzles and delights. I hesitated, uncertainty wrapping tight around my throat. I don't know how to be anything else. Why not start by trusting me? His voice was soft, the subtext palpable in the space between us. Trust. Just the thought sent my heart into a wild rhythm, an invitation to expose parts of myself I had walled off for so long. The warmth between us shifted, morphing into something heavier, more intoxicating, as desire trickled into the void of doubt. And what if I can't? He stepped back, distancing himself slightly as he processed my words. What if I risk myself for you? It struck me in that moment, the juxtaposition of strength and fragility swirling like a tempest in the air between us. Maybe it's easier to keep things light, Corbin. Maybe that's all we need. His gaze flickered with disappointment, and the air hummed in silence. Light? He echoed incredulously, a shadow crossing his features. We both know it's more than that. You can't keep pretending. I'm not pretending, I snapped, the fire igniting in my chest. This is what you wanted, a showcase for your culinary golden girl, right? Nothing more? He stepped toward me, the anger in his eyes matching my own. You think you're not worthy of love without the perfect meal to back you up? I care about you, Amara, not just the chef. Did he mean it? My insides churned, both ignited and terrified by the thought. What if I've wrapped my heart up in this notion of love and lost myself in the process? Then let me unwrap you. The words were barely a whisper, but the gravity of them crackled in the air. My breath caught. We stood at the precipice, on the cusp of something significant, and I couldn't figure out whether to leap or turn back. Where does that leave us, Corbin? Right here, in this moment, he said, his voice steady. Let me uncover the real you. Before I could respond, he reached out to brush a loose strand of hair behind my ear, the tenderness of his actions bringing the conversation to a palpable halt. I could feel my breath ease. the warmth between us morphing from explosive wrath to a whisper of shared intimacy. The air tightened once more as we locked eyes, staring, unyielding, the silence thick with unexpressed thoughts. But under it all was a shimmer of something primal, raw, compelling. My heart wanted to surrender, to allow myself the boldness of desire, like those fig slices we had arranged moments ago, sweet and delicate, yet daringly ripe. "Dance with me," he said, breaking the palpable tension. The words surprised me, a lightness slipping into the fragile atmosphere. "Dance?" I echoed, a smirk dancing across my lips. "You really think you can distract me with your moves? Just try to keep up, Chef." With that, Corden took my hand, transforming the weight of our earlier conflict into a lighter moment. There was an undeniable upturn in our collective energy, and I found myself caught off guard. He moved with the kind of grace that settled into rhythm naturally, and for moments I let go, allowing the music to carry me. Laughter punctured the air, and we swayed, me hesitantly at first, then more confidently, letting myself fall into the music. Corbin led with gentle cues, and I found myself matching his steps effortlessly, as if this dance were an extension of the connection we were forging. The tension eased, and I felt like I was shedding pieces of armor. "See, you already look more relaxed," he teased, drawing me closer, our bodies brushing against each other with every movement. "Don't get used to it," I shot back, playful annoyance flickering in my tone, but even I could feel the serendipity smiling down on us as we twirled. "Why not?" His voice deepened, filled with something soft yet commanding. "You're stunning when you're not in your head." I let out a half-hearted laugh, but the way his eyes bore into mine caused my heart to flutter. "You really mean that?" "Absolutely." For a moment, all uncertainties melted into the symphony of our shared laughter, until thoughts of vulnerabilities crept back into the edges of my mind. All it took was one shared glance, one lingering touch, to remind me that it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And yet, as the laughter faded, the need to confront the remaining heaviness lingered. I drew a breath and said, "I'll tell you something serious." "Yes?" he asked, his forehead creasing slightly. I hesitated, the words bubbling within me like simmering sauce. "Sometimes, I think I'll lose myself in the idea of us, and that terrifies me." His expression shifted from playful to contemplative in a heartbeat. "Maybe it's time to let go of that fear." But even as the acceptance lingered in the air, fragments of my insecurities began to race back like a tide crashing toward the shore. "And what if it doesn't work out? What if someday you decide I'm not worth it?" He took my chin gently, tilting my face toward his with a commanding electricity. "Amara, I could never think that." "But, no." His voice was firm yet tender, a protective strength that washed over me. "You're not giving yourself enough credit. You hold power in who you are." "I'm trying," I murmured, but clouds of self-doubt danced on the periphery. "Not after everything." A heavy silence enveloped us, and in the space between heartbeats I felt the raw truth of the vulnerability, a delicate strand that connected us both. Slowly, almost tentatively, I leaned into him, closing the distance that had grown again. "Help me find that power," I whispered, an intimate desperation blooming within my chest. "I'm right here." His voice was a sultry balm against the sharpness of my fears. Before I knew it, our breaths mingled and my body leaned into his, a connection forged not just by proximity, but by a willingness to tear down walls. "Amara," he murmured, steady and intent, before dipping his mouth to mine, our lips brushing softly at first, testing the waters of this new path. Then it deepened, and the world around us faded away, the air crackling with heat as the warm ocean breeze seeped through the open windows, stirring the flames of our emotions. With every kiss, a resurgence of passion ignited, the doubts fueling the heat between us. It was a dance of its own, a heady mix of longing and vulnerability intermingling, and I desperately wanted more than just a moment of solace. Before long, he lifted me, instinctively cradling me against his solid chest, and I wrapped my legs around him. We were lost in a fervor that was equal parts wild and tender. Each heated kiss, Each gentle brush of his hands against my skin felt monumentally important. The taste of sweetness lingered between us as our breaths intertwined in desperate rhythm. I was his, as completely as we were lost in this forbidden revelry, in that moment stripping away every layer until there was nothing left but the raw need for connection. "I want you, Amara," he murmured between kisses, "every part of you." "Then take me," I breathed, surrendering fully, letting the sea of fear wash away into a vast expanse of lustful desire. And just like that, our vulnerabilities turned into a fevered entanglement of limbs and souls, bodies pressed against walls, desperate for the relief of the truth that cloaked us in this dance of intimacy. As the moon hung full and luminous outside the window, the world fell away, each pulse, each gasp of pleasure fusing into something divine, something beautifully untamed that neither of us could deny any longer. Hours felt like minutes as we captured every ounce of passion we were capable of sharing, entangled and breathless, leaving no room for doubt. Here, beneath the weight of our emotions, we became one in every sense, fueled by the embers of vulnerability basking in the warm air that encircled us. And just as the night deepened, so did our connection, intertwined in a way that left my soul feather-light and more anchored to him than ever before. In the stillness after, as the sparkler flame of passion began to smolder, I thought again of his words, "Amara, you're powerful." In that moment of bare honesty, I felt it. I began to understand. Chapter 9. A Sensual Challenge. The wind whistled through the palm trees fringing the terrace, a playful ghost weaving through chatter and laughter. I was acutely aware of every sensation, the briny tang of the ocean airborne, the heat of the sun pressing down on my shoulders, and the sharp scent of basil mingling with the subtle sweetness of white peaches, waiting to be transformed into something exquisite. "You think you can make a better dish than me, Amara?" Corbin's voice cut through my reverie, imbued with a challenging air that sent butterflies shivering in my stomach. He stood looking impossibly handsome in his fitted navy shirt, rolled sleeves revealing toned forearms. He had a roguish smile that disarmed me, though today it felt more like a challenge than a charm. I secured a sprig of basil on the counter, meeting his gaze with as much confidence as I could muster. "That depends on the challenge. Are you ready to lose?" Corbin laughed, a rich sound that seemed to echo off the walls of the culinary studio we'd fashioned into a vibrant battleground. The sunlight danced off the polished countertops, glinting off the array of ingredients laid before us like soldiers ready to be called into action. I felt my heart thrum against my chest as I picked up a knife, its weight familiar and comforting, ready for the dance we were about to engage in. "Let's keep it interesting," he proposed, the corners of his mouth curving ever so slightly. "How about the winner gets to pick dinner for the next week?" And there it was, our competition, elevated to a tantalizing wager. "And the loser?" I shot back, an irrepressible grin spreading across my face. "Has to prepare a 3-course meal for a midnight guest," he said, his eyes narrowing in playful menace. "Deal, but who would the guest be?" I asked, my heart quickening. He stepped closer, the air thickening as our bodies almost brushed against one another. "Ah, that's for the winner to decide," he whispered, his breath stirring the hair at my temple. Time seemed suspended as his gaze locked onto mine, a silent challenge vibrating between us. With one swift motion, I turned my attention to the ingredients before me, determined to concentrate. The competition was heating up, and I would not buckle under pressure. I seized a ripe peach, running my fingers over its smooth skin, contemplating how I could transform it into a melody of flavors. "You're sweating already, Amara," Corbin teased, his voice deepening with that playful threat that only he could wield so effectively. I shot him a sidelong glance, my heart pounding beneath the counter. Just taking my time. A masterpiece can't be rushed, can it? Spoken like a true chef. But don't think your sweet talk will throw me off my game, he replied, his voice low, suggestive. I might just be inspired to char your peach into oblivion. A spark ignited. The air around us thickened again, electrified. As I reached for a peach, I teasingly flicked juice from it in his direction, watching with delight as he deftly stepped back, laughing, his eyes glinting with mischief. You've declared war, he called out, feigning offense, and my laughter bubbled up, echoing through the studio. This was as much an emotional grenade as a culinary challenge. We thrived in this playful defiance, but hidden beneath the surface were stakes far deeper than our light-hearted banter. With determination, I activated all my senses. The crisp knife sliced through the peach, revealing its vibrant, sunny yellow flesh. The aroma filled my lungs, and I envisioned the way its flavor would burst against the savory backdrop I was crafting. I could hear him moving deliberately, the scrape of his knife echoing, the rhythm of our competition becoming almost hypnotic. Oh, you think you're clever, don't you? I quipped, looking at him over my shoulder. But just wait until you taste my dish. I have no doubt it will be delightful, he replied, his tone insouciant. But delightful doesn't win challenges. You haven't even tasted what I'm concocting yet. A soft sigh escaped him as he stepped closer again, his heat radiating through the air. Then perhaps I should give you my expert opinion, darling. Your opinion? I challenged, enjoying the banter and competing for the upper hand. You've never even set foot in a proper kitchen other than to devour what I've created. True, but I've been watching you, my very own culinary maestro. There's no one quite like you, Amara. I glanced back at him, caught off guard. His sincerity struck deep, but the intensity in his gaze felt too raw, too immediate. Focus on the challenge, Corbin, I laughed nervously, masking the heat that rushed to my cheeks. I can't help it if you inspire me. Pushing aside that sudden rush of warmth, I turned back to my station. Merging spices for my glaze, I let the aroma envelop me, igniting my focus. But the heat of his gaze lingered, brewing a tension that coiled tighter with each passing second. As he prepared his own dish, I noticed the culinary confidence surfacing in him. His usual intensity transformed into a fiery passion. My mind began to race. He was talented, ambitious, competitors in worlds that were beginning to merge into something unpredictable and thrilling. I need more cilantro, I declared, eyes darting around for the herb. And a dash of humility, perhaps? He teased, cutting through my distraction as he flashed his mischievous smile. I tossed a sprig of cilantro in his direction, not even breaking eye contact. You really want to taste what I'm making? If I win, I'd like to be your only taste test. The innuendo barely skated past the surface. He knew precisely how to stretch the unspoken words that filled our less playful moments. Perhaps I need to adjust my recipe to make you work for it, I shot back lightly, though a key part of me had already entertained where this slippery challenge might lead. But every chef needs a discerning palate to guide their culinary choices. I will be that palate, he said, closing the space between us, the barest hint of seriousness threading through his playful challenge. The timer on my station beeped, signaling the final minutes. Breathe, Amara. The dish needed attention, but Corbin's presence called out the very mismatched rhythms of my ambition and my desire. Maybe I'd gotten a little too lost in this tantalizing moment. I'm plating now, I said tersely, forcing myself to focus. Careful, he murmured, stepping close enough that I felt the warmth of his body radiating against mine. An amusing proximity, layered with tension. Too much heat can spoil a good dish. I shot him a sly smile, all defiance and resolve, as I arranged the colors on the plate. Oh, trust me, I'm all about the right amount of heat. He gave a soft chuckle, his amusement only heightening the electricity hanging between us. We carefully placed our dishes in the center, each a vibrant interpretation of summer sensations. The timer rang, and I breathed a sigh of relief, but the real work, figuring out where we stood, had only just begun. Let's taste, shall we? Corbin said, his tone suddenly serious, scrutinizing my creation. I felt the pounding of my heart. Taste and determine the winner? He nodded, reaching for the fork, and as our eyes locked, an intensity ignited, an invitation wrapped in a challenge. If I win, he said quietly, dinner is on you. And if I win, I countered, almost breathlessly. My heart raced as I became acutely aware of everything, the warm air, the glimmers of sun dancing across his skin. Let's see what you've made first. Taking a bite of my dish, Corbin closed his eyes for a brief moment. His expression shifted, softening into something almost tender as he savored the blend of flavors. Well, I asked, leaning a little closer, reaching for the tension that was palpable between us. Absolutely superb, he said finally, licking his fork with an exuberance that made goosebumps rise on my arms. It was so unexpectedly sensual, it shot spark after spark through the air around us. I see you're sharing a little too much enthusiasm for the dish, I teased, unable to fight the heat blossoming through my own honesty. Corbin smiled knowingly. Or maybe it's just a taste of what's yet to come. The tension skyrocketed. I could feel it wrapping around us, erasing the distance with finesse, stirring up emotions that could no longer hide beneath the veneer of competition. The dishes are delicious, I said, shaking my head, not wanting to lose focus or let myself believe what I felt could be anything real. But Corbin stepped closer still, the flavor of his words wrapping their tendrils around my mind. And you, Amara Reed, are intoxicating. Dared and emboldened, I leaned in even more. And you might be losing this battle, Corbin Langston, though winning hardly sounds like a bad idea. With that, laughter erupted between us, airy yet simmering with heat, as we savored the playful appeal of our fierce connection. Suddenly, I moved without thinking, reaching out to plant a swift kiss on his cheek. The fabric of his shirt felt coarse yet tantalizing on my fingertips. He turned slightly, his eyes widening, and I knew he could feel the shift in the air. A moment hung between excitement and temptation. Just to remind you of what you're aiming for, I whispered, allowing the warmth of my words to weave through the air. Our eyes locked again, and in that glance, I felt the gravity of his gaze pull me, whispering the truth of our desires. The realization hit me, like the sun striking water. This was not merely a game, nor just a battle of chefs. It was a doorway, and flipping the handles open meant revealing the depths of our ambitions, both culinary and otherwise. And then, just as the moment reached its boiling point, the warmth morphed into something more, an undeniable heat brimming between us, ready to simmer over. Amara, he murmured, voice low, almost a groan. Corbin. In the silence that followed, I could feel the weight of possibility stretching out before us, the siren call of our desires echoing against the backdrop of our competitive spirits. He leaned in closer, tantalizingly, and I finally allowed myself to take the plunge. This was not simply about who would win the cooking battle. This was about discovering how we could meld the heartbeats of our lives and desires into something more delectable than any dish we could prepare. And, with that thought hanging like fine mist in the air, I surrendered to the inevitable. Let's finish this, together. Chapter 10. Unraveling Trust. The storm had come out of nowhere, a fierce swirl of dark clouds racing overhead. Wind howled like a banshee, and the rain crashed against the windows with a fury that left no doubt about its intent to drown my rising fears. As I stared out at the tumultuous sea, the waves whipped about like chaotic dancers, mirroring the tumult within me. I should have reveled in the culinary haven that was my life at Corbin's Island retreat, yet I felt like a raw fish, fresh on the stone and gasping for air. I caught myself fiddling with the edge of my apron, pulling and tugging as though the fabric held a secret worth unraveling. Thoughts raced through my mind. Could I continue to hide the gnawing dread deep behind the intricate layers of my culinary creations? Did I truly know the man whose kitchen I had infiltrated, Or was I merely a muse in his game of ambition and power? The door swung open, slamming against the wall with a bang that jolted me from my reverie. "Corbin!" I yelled over the noise of the weather, placing my hand on the countertop as if it could stabilize the shuddering of my heart. I didn't see him at first, too busy battling the shadows of doubt flitting around the edges of my thoughts, and then I turned. He made his entrance, soaked and shirtless, droplets cascading down his torso. "I thought I'd find you here, hiding from the storm," he smirked. But there was something else behind his eyes, a darkness, perhaps a sign of his own brewing tempest. "Corbin," I said slowly, "it's more than the storm I'm hiding from." The clattering of pans echoed behind me as I prepared for our next culinary creation. I could feel the energy in the kitchen shift, charged like lightning preparing to strike. He stepped closer, the scent of salt water mingling with his cologne, and I could see his muscles contracting as he leaned against the counter. "Amara, we need to talk." His gaze was piercing, as though it could slice through the defenses I had so painstakingly built. "Talk about what?" I replied, crossing my arms, the protective stance feeling oddly familiar. "Your past? Your secrets?" I took a half step back, feeling trapped between the warm glow of the kitchen and the cold chaos of the storm. "At least we're in the right place," he countered, a faint smile pulling at the corner of his lips. "I've cooked up a pot of tension that's sure to bubble over. What's the matter? Scared of some spice?" But laughter seemed a far-off luxury, lost in the downpour. The weight of the truth hung over us, straining the air that had once ignited with potential. "Corbin," I started, my voice shaky, "you can't keep me here, cooking for you, while you maintain your secrets like some kind of shield. You tell me things matter of fact, but you leave out crucial parts. I can't just be your fun little puzzle to solve." He took a breath, then closed the distance. "Amara, I want to protect you from my past." He reached out, a hand cupping my cheek, a gentle, earnest gesture that sent my heart racing. "But I can't hide it from you forever." "What's the worst that could happen?" I asked, crossing my arms tighter against the brewing storm inside and out. "Trust you're building it, and someone could come along and yank it away." His voice dropped, the seriousness shifting the energy in the room. "Besides, it's not just my secrets. It's connected to you, to your life, your dreams. How am I supposed to trust you again?" "Perhaps there's no trust to be salvaged," Lena interjected lightly, "while standing in a storm, both outside and in here." Her tone, though light-hearted, carried an undertone of seriousness as she crossed her arms. "You two need to remember what you both want." "Want?" Corbin echoed, gripping the edge of the counter, his hands shaking slightly. "What I want is you, Amara, regardless of what happened in my past." I struggled to hold his gaze. "Your past is part of who you are, Corbin." It felt unfair to feel robbed of trust while looking into the face of a man I had let into my heart. "Your past is tied to the very foundation of trust we've built." "Then let me rebuild it," he urged, stepping closer as thunder rumbled above. "Let me show you how," he breathed, that magnetic charm slipping back into place. Lena shifted from foot to foot as if she were witnessing the most scandalous of soap operas. "Do take the dramatic tension down a notch," she said, raising her eyebrows at me. "I'd rather not get splashed with emotional collateral." I couldn't suppress a snort even as I wiped at the unshed tears threatening to spill. "Maybe, just maybe, you're right about taking things down a notch, but that won't change the undercurrents of betrayal." A flicker of hope illuminated Corbin's eyes. "What if I were to share everything, not just about her, but my ambitions, my fears, the truth that lies beneath this facade?" "Okay, let's start with honesty then," I offered, a cautious sense of misunderstanding dissipating between us like the clouds outside threatening to clear. "Truth first, then we can rebuild. No more secrets between us." He took a deep breath. "Agreed. But first, let me show you how to savor the trust we share." Before I could reply, he leaned forward, capturing my lips with a fervor that stole the air from my lungs. The kiss tasted like thunderstorm and salt, powerful and exhilarating, yet urgent in its passion. It ignited something deep within me, chasing away the remnants of doubt that clung like fog in the wind before the sun broke through after a storm. His arms encircled me, strong and sure, pulling me impossibly closer until it felt as though all the chaos outside no longer existed. A feverish warmth enveloped us. I could feel the weight of his heartbeat sync with my own as our bodies melted together. It was a dance, intense, consuming, an unraveling of the very fabric of trust we had woven. We had stumbled into the eye of the storm, our fury transformed into something unmistakably alive, our connection anchoring us even as the winds raged outside. And in that moment, the secrets felt small and far away. I surrendered to the passion, to the very essence of him, promising myself I wouldn't be swept away by the tides of uncertainty again. But beneath the kiss was still that undercurrent, a sense unwrapped as we lost ourselves to each other, a storm past, a brewing future. I could only hope that the sun would shine on what we'd rebuilt together, even as the winds whispered dark secrets just beyond the storm's edge. "Dare to share more truth over dinner?" he murmured against my lips, a twinkle in his eyes as we finally pulled away. "Only if dinner comes with a storm of your own secrets for dessert," I retorted playfully, unable to resist the smirk curling my lips, feeling the weight lifting. "Only if that dessert is sweet enough to satisfy you," he declared, his voice a low rumble as he swept me toward the warm glow of the stove. As the tempest outside raged on, I felt something shift. Perhaps trust would take time to heal, but in this moment, I was willing to weather the storm. For him, for us, one shared secret at a time. Chapter 11. The Weight of Darkness. "Do you even hear yourself right now, Corbin?" I snapped, the edge of my frustration making my voice tremble slightly. The sun dipped behind the horizon, casting the kitchen in deep, alluring shadows, the scent of sautéed shallots filling the air. I stood by the marble countertop, clad in my favorite white chef's jacket. It felt like armor against the whirlwind of emotions swirling between us. Corbin leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, the last rays of light illuminating the sharp angles of his face like chiaroscuro. He exuded an overwhelming presence, one that stirred both admiration and trepidation. "Amara, I'm just saying you should think about the risk," he replied smoothly, though the tension in his voice hinted at a deeper unease. "Risk?" I shot back, incredulity washing over me. "You mean like the risk of pursuing my passion, or the risk of actually enjoying life?" Clenching my jaw, I felt heat surge through my chest, his brow furrowed, his veneer of calm cracking. "You know how I feel about the world out there. It doesn't always embrace creativity and talent like yours. You're too precious for that." Oh, how I hated his grip on my potential, his determination to protect me from perceived failures. My heart raced, despair creeping in alongside my growing frustration. His kindness often felt suffocating, as if he placed me in a gilded cage. "Precious? Is that what you think I am?" I crossed my arms, mirroring his stance, every fiber of my being set on resisting both his concern and his charm. "I'm not a trophy, Corbin. I'm a chef, a dreamer. You don't own my potential." "I never claimed to. I'm just," he began, but the weight of a moment hung in the air, heavy and charged, each second stretching taut as I watched the emotions flicker across his face. "Just what?" I pressed, a tremor in my voice. My heart pounded as I took a step closer, defiance sparking in my chest. "Wanting to protect me or to control me?" His jaw tightened, muscles shifting beneath the taut fabric of his shirt. "It's both, isn't it?" he challenged, his gaze unwavering. The playful banter we had so often exchanged felt out of reach now, replaced by an electrifying tension that threatened to shatter our fragile truce. I let out a frustrated sigh, running my hands through my messy curls, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. "This isn't just about me. This is about what we're building here, the culinary experience I want to create with you. Don't you see the potential?" "I see the darkness around you," he countered, his voice a low growl. The air shimmered with unsaid secrets, the space thick with unyielding desire and unrecognizable fears. Darkness, you're the one hiding things, Corbin. The words bulleted from my lips, raw and untamed. A frown creased his forehead, revealing the conflict brewing beneath his surface. Well, maybe you should stop trying to save me. His voice rose, echoing off the walls. For a moment, I feared he might break something, as if each fragile piece between us teetered on the brink of collapse. The palpable anger simmering in the space between us stirred something deeper. A dangerous passion boiled underneath it all, igniting a spark that sipped through my veins. Is that what you think this is? A rescue mission? Maybe you need rescuing, he shot back, standing tall, his eyes aflame with a mixture of frustration and something hopeful, something that beckoned me closer even as it pushed me away. I couldn't resist anymore. The truth of my feelings unfurled, set ablaze by his searing gaze, and I stepped into his space, the air between us vibrantly charged. Then let me rescue you. Let me do that. The moment stretched, and I saw time pause in his electric blue eyes. A breath, heavy and full of unspoken words, hung between us, his protective facade softening as he searched mine for truth. And then, without thinking, I closed the distance, letting our bodies collide. He caught me against him, strong and unyielding, as his lips met mine in a frenzy, igniting the tempest that braided our hearts. My fingers tangled in his hair, the taste of him a sweet rebellion against all the unspoken boundaries that had grazed our reality. I needed him, and yet I feared the consequences of our reckless abandon. We stumbled into the kitchen, tangling amidst the culinary chaos. I pressed him against the coolness of the counter, our breaths heavy, surging with the heat of unyielding desire. "Amara," he murmured, his voice deep and raspy, brushing against my ear. My heart raced, alive with sensation, as his hands pulled me closer, firm yet searching, desperate yet tender. "You have no idea what you're getting into." "I'm not scared," I breathed, feeling the weight of his darkness intertwine with my passion. The world outside ceased to exist. It was just us, and the frantic beat of our hearts echoing to an uncharted rhythm. "Then you should be." He met my challenge with his eyes, a glimmer of something fierce pulsing between us. But I only grinned, savoring the thrill of rebellion. "Then let's redefine the risk." In one swift motion, he lifted me, cradling my waist against the marble, the cool surface contrasting with the fire igniting our souls. The sensuous rush coursed through me as I wrapped my legs around him, pulling him closer, grounding myself in the sizzling present, as every desire I tucked away from myself suddenly swelled. "Corbin," I gasped, lost in his depth, the way I felt enveloped by his very essence. "Shh," he whispered, his mouth lowering to mine once more, kissing me with an urgency that felt both reckless and profound. The world melted around us, the simmering pots, the rich aromas, all fading against the backdrop of our fervent closeness. The passion between us swelled like an unstoppable tide, building towards a crescendo as I surrendered to his touch. Every caress sent tremors through my body, awakening yearning that ran deeper than mere lust. I had always been a master of control, twisting flavors in a dish with finesse. Yet here, at the whim of our entangled desires, I found an exquisite freedom. "Amara," he breathed against my lips, melding his body into mine as if he sought to taste my very essence. "You're mine." Only for tonight, I teased through gritted breaths, pulling him relentlessly closer, buoyed by the thrilling madness of our connection. But as I kissed him, I felt that darkness clawing at my insides, the buried secrets he had hidden from me, the weight of his silence haunting every exhale. The knowledge that our union was built on more than just chemistry cut through the haze, teasing the edges of my mind. "More," I demanded between kisses, desperation threading through me as I sought to discover every part of him. He obliged, his kisses fervent as they ventured deeper, setting my skin on fire. He nibbled at my collarbone, trailing deliciously down to my pulse, the slight rasp of his stubble igniting exhilaration in its wake. I let out a plaintive moan, feeling every inch of him against me, alive with the heat of our tempestuous rhythm. I buried my fingers in the comfortable muscle of his back, urging him closer, closer. I want to know every facet of you, I murmured against his mouth, my heart pounding with the vulnerability I'd hidden for far too long. You'll know, he soothed, his voice a low rumble against my skin as I pulled him again, meeting him like breath. He cradled my face, raw intensity igniting with each brush of his lips, each hungry sigh that escaped into the thickening air. Jasmine notes wafted in from the window, warming the atmosphere around us like a comforting embrace. My senses heightened, overwhelmed by the need for him and the tantalizing danger of the secrets looming just out of sight. What if you can't handle it? He half laughed, half challenged, the light teasing lacing his voice. Trust me, Corbin, I whispered fiercely, my eyes locked on his strength making me feel as if I could take on the weight of every shadow. As he pulled me deeper into the dance of intimacy, I began to lose track of where he ended and I began. The boundaries fading against the backdrop of murmured promises and hushed laughter. Our darkness tangled beautifully, opening new doors I had never dared to unlock. Amara Reed wasn't just a chef in that moment. She was a woman, fierce and unyielding, forging a path through the weight of darkness, one heated touch at a time. But even as the passion seared through our bodies, a sliver of doubt remained lodged in my heart. As blissful as this was, would I come to regret it? Would I have to learn the hard way about all the layers hiding behind his charming smile? For tonight, Amara, he said, pressing dangerously close, let's just embrace this. And as I melted into the heat of his claim, I gave in to the pulse of the night, surrendering to the intoxicating thrill of our shared darkness. Could love blossom amidst betrayal? Only time would tell. Chapter 12. Taking Control. The scent of rosemary hung in the air like an intimate secret, mingling with the salt-laden breeze that danced through the open kitchen window. I stood before the marble counter, surrounded by a palette of vibrant produce, heirloom tomatoes, plump black olives glistening like polished gems, and an array of herbs ready to infuse my culinary vision into life. It was a seemingly mundane task, yet every chop I made echoed the turmoils simmering within me. The knife sliced through the ingredients with purpose, but my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts about Corbin and his unyielding control over our lives. Do you remember the first time we met out there in that crowded room? I asked, not fully aware I had spoken out loud. My voice dripped with a mix of nostalgia and quiet accusation, the edges sharp enough to cut through the tension that had been building between us. Corbin, seated at the antique dining table nearby, looked up from his laptop, the steel blue of his eyes flaring momentarily with interest before he returned to typing, his fingers a blur against the keyboard. Of course, you left them all speechless with that amuse-bouche, he replied, his voice smooth but laced with mischief. I glanced over at him. His dark curls fell effortlessly over his forehead, his demeanor relaxed, but the tension in my jaw told me I was anything but. And what did you do? You orchestrated the whole thing, manipulated everything just to get me there. He paused, fingers hovering above the keys. You make it sound sinister. I simply created an opportunity for you to shine. The kind of opportunity where I was just another pawn in your game, Corbin? I shoved the chopped tomatoes into a bowl, my movements punctuated by a surge of frustration. That's the truth you've avoided, isn't it? With a deep breath, I turned to face him fully. The silence that followed wrapped around us with a weight heavier than any argument I had ever had. I could practically see the gears turning in his mind as he searched for the right response. I wouldn't say you were a pawn, Amara. You were the queen. His tone was playful, but a touch of defensiveness curled beneath it. You know I have always valued. Valued? I cut him off, raising an eyebrow. Is that how you spin this? Or is it how you convince yourself that this whole scheme of yours is justified? Because you've kept secrets, Corbin. And I should have seen that coming. A flicker of real discomfort dashed across his face. Secrets about what? About how you manipulated your way into my life. How you used your status to. Before I could finish, he had risen to his full height, the chair scraping against the wooden floor behind him. He stepped closer, a storm brewing behind those enticing blue eyes. I didn't force you, Amara. You made your choices. You wanted this as much as I did. Well, I want more now. The words slipped out before I could consolidate my thoughts. I want control over my life, over what I create, and over us. A tense silence stretched again, each second dragging out like molasses, and I watched the dynamic shift subtly. Corbin's expression softened, but hardened. There was admiration mixed with a hint of fear, perhaps even respect for the stand I was drawing. He stepped forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial murmur. So you wish to reclaim control? Very well. Show me what that looks like. My heart raced. The challenge hung between us like a taut wire, ready to snap. Why don't you let me cook for you tonight, and we see whose control reigns? I can't wait, he said, a spark igniting his smile, the hint of a challenge twisting on his lips. With newfound resolve, I returned to the counter, chopping ingredients with a vigor that surprised even me. The rhythm of my knife echoed through the kitchen, metronomic, each thwack of blade against board calling back my strength. The sounds hummed like the pulse of the sea against the sandy shore just beyond the glass doors. I chose a rich, velvety risotto as my canvas, stirring in a fragrant broth and flicking my gaze toward Corbin. He watched me intently, arms crossed, a commanding presence that seemed to take over the space around him. What are you thinking, chef? You'll see, I replied, tossing in a handful of saffron threads that danced like tiny flames against the nourishing rice. Is it wise to keep me in the dark? There was a teasing glimmer in his eyes. What if my hunger for control overtakes your desire to cook? Then I guess you'll just have to wait and see what I'm capable of. I poured the risotto into bowls, topped each with a sprinkle of freshly grated Parmesan, eyes flitting back to him. He hadn't moved. The air between us was thickening. I think you'll find it's worth your patience. Corbin took his seat again, and as I set the bowls before him, I could feel the charged atmosphere dance between us, almost palpable. This looks incredible, he remarked, genuinely marveling. It tastes even better. I kept our eye contact steady, challenging him silently to acknowledge the unspoken. We both dug in, the flavors bursting on our tongues. I watched for his reaction, noting how he savored each bite, the corners of his mouth lifting in appreciation. You've outdone yourself. Actually, I smirked. I've really just started. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Oh, moving on to desserts already? Perhaps even a main course, I said slyly. How about a little dish about power and control, marked with honesty? Corbin chuckled, slightly taken aback by my boldness. Honesty in the kitchen is the key to success. Exactly. I took a sip of exquisite red wine, letting the rich textures linger before setting the glass down. And in relationships. As our meal progressed, every bite seemed to peel back layers of our connection, revealing truths we had skirted around with lingering glances and half-formed sentences. I dared to probe deeper. So what do you think about us, Corbin? You can no longer dictate the terms if I'm reclaiming control. He put down his fork, the clatter against the bowl sounding almost like a warning. You think I've been dictating? You know that I want what's best for you. For us. Sensing the shift, I leaned in, the space between us narrowing. What's best might just be me figuring out my path, without your hand pushing mine. Without me? His voice held a strange blend of protectiveness and hurt. Amara, I held up a hand. Do you hear that? The wind, the waves? They remind me that freedom is essential. I'm allowing myself this chance, and I won't have you hijacking my decisions. The weight of my words hung in the air as Corbin's expression shifted from surprise to admiration. And finally, a glint of something else, an acknowledgement of this newfound power dynamic. "Then let's build this honesty on passion," he replied, his hands roaming over the curves of my body with deliberate intent, igniting flames where my skin met his. The connection between us became palpable, charged with the heat of our unresolved tensions and the spark of our desires clashing together like waves against the shore. "Corbin," I sighed, pleasure cascading like fireworks within me. He drew back momentarily, smirking as he took in my breathless state. "Have I somehow convinced you that control is overrated?" "Perhaps," I whispered, leaning into the firelight that ignited him anew. "Or maybe I'm simply learning that in surrender, there lies strength." "Then let's explore that strength together," he said, eyes locked onto mine with a promise that ignited a fierce desire coursing through my veins. With a bold resolve, I leaned in for another kiss, ready to dive below the surface of control and honesty, our future waiting to be crafted from the raw elements of passion and trust, elements we were only beginning to know. Chapter 13. The Lighthearted Moments. The sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a soft golden light across the island. The waves gently lapped at the rocky shore, their rhythmic whisper a sharp contrast to a chaos buzzing inside me. I inhaled the briny sea air, feeling a fleeting sense of calm wash over my tangled thoughts. Yet the tension between Corbin and me shimmered like the distant sunlight, intoxicating and confusing, a promise of something deeper lying just beneath the surface. "Are you planning to make food or artwork?" Corbin's voice sliced through my reverie, playfully mocking. He stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, eyes sparkling with mischief. The fabric of his linen shirt clung to his chest, a tantalizing hint of strength just beneath the surface. My heart thudded, not merely from the sight of him, but also from the playful antagonism in his tone. "Art is a dish best served fresh, darling," I shot back, shaking a spoon toward him, my finger tapping at the thick, velvety bean soup simmering on the stove. "And this masterpiece takes time." Corbin stepped closer, his presence filling the space like a rich, dark chocolate. "Time, eh? We'll see how well this masterpiece goes over at dinner. Besides, you do remember I have a reputation to uphold." He leaned against the counter, all confidence and charm, making me acutely aware of the way his body filled the room. My cheeks warmed, and I could almost feel the electric pulse between us crackling wildly. "Reputation?" I raised an eyebrow, lacing my fingers defiantly. "What, like being a culinary con artist who orchestrates elaborate tricks to woo unsuspecting chefs?" The words fell from my lips with a hint of edge. I knew all too well the games he played, and it irked me to no end that I couldn't stop enjoying the thrill. He chuckled, leaning closer, his breath warm against my ear as he whispered, "Well, you did fall for my cunning little plan, didn't you? And now look where you are." The challenge in his voice became a delicious potion, mixing excitement with unease, filling the spaces between us with unspoken intensity. "Where I am," I replied, murmuring my defiance, "is trapped on an island with a manipulative billionaire with an ego larger than this entire kitchen, and I'm drowning in his dark, messy sea of secrets." I met his gaze, unyielding. The laughter vanished from the room, replaced by an earnest battle of wills. For a long heartbeat, we stood there, the air thick with unsaid confessions. In his eyes, I felt the swirling chaos of his ambition, the weight of secrets swimming just beneath his calm surface. I had an earnest hunger for truth, a craving that surged in tandem with a thrill I couldn't name. "Do you think I'm playing with you?" His voice lowered, calm and steady, yet the challenge reverberated through my chest like a drum. The invitation lingered, to trust him, to let go of my fears, and with it, a wave of jealousy rolled through the very core of who I was. "What I think is that you're always 2 steps ahead, Corbin," I replied, actively confronting his gaze. "I have to wonder how many hearts you've played with just to get what you want." It was another inciting comment, But I didn't care. The truth hung between us like a burning ember. Is that what you think? He pressed. That I don't care about anyone but myself? You know me better than that. Do I? The silence thickened, and before I could pull away from him, Corbin closed the space between us, both his hands resting on the countertop, hovering like he was ready to spring on me. The closeness ignited something deep within. You should know I want you in my world, Amara, he said, sincerity spilling from him like an open tap. Your world? I scoffed, breaking the magnetic hold of his gaze. What I see is a world filled with secrets, and I'm not sure I want any part of it. Do you think I wanted to set this all in motion? He retorted, throwing his hands up dramatically. Do you think this was in my grand plan? Just add a talented chef and stir? He gestured to my soup. This was never just a chef to me. You are so much more. Then why didn't you just ask for help instead of setting the stage? I snapped. Why do you always have to manipulate? Corbin's expression shifted, a sharp inhale, a glance sideways, as if trying to understand my frustration. I thought I could guide you, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I just wanted you close. Close? The word hung precariously in the air, resonating between us, igniting those treacherous feelings I had tried to keep at bay. Or to control. Why are you so afraid of what this is becoming? His voice lowered, an enigmatic softness pouring through, trying to thread his way into the frayed edges of my anger. Because it feels like a game to you, I exclaimed, hands flailing for emphasis. And I don't want to be a pawn in your elaborate chess match. I hesitated, feeling the storm within me rumble. I want honesty. His jaw clenched, revealing his own conflict. Then you deserve to know everything, even the darkest parts. Before I could respond, the door swung open, and our friends Lisa and Malik burst into the kitchen like a storm, entirely oblivious to the invisible barricade we had both just erected. Okay, chef extraordinaire, Lisa said, her voice melodic and exuberant. Shall we taste this supposed masterpiece that has been all the buzz around here? She casually sidled up, smiling at Corbin as she grabbed a spoon and took a taste without invitation. Hey, that's for dinner, I protested, but I couldn't help but chuckle. Delicious, Lisa exclaimed, slurping exaggeratedly, making a show of smacking her lips. You're really onto something here, Amara. But could you add a tad more salt? My protests were drowned by Malik's booming laughter. You know there's never too much salt for Lisa. She's a salt fiend. His playful jab sent ripples of laughter through the room. I made a face at Lisa before glancing at Corbin, who wore a half grin, his fierce intensity softened by the buoyancy brought in by our friends. Stop abusing my cooking, you two, I exclaimed, not truly upset, but relieved to have the tension relieved, if only just. You'd better put that spoon away before I enact revenge. Revenge? Malik asked, perking up dramatically. What are you going to do? Add cinnamon to the soup? That would be the culinary crime of the year. He winked at me, mischievous and inviting, turning the energy in the room bright and buoyant once more. Cinnamon is an exquisite spice, I countered, crossing my arms and trying to unwind my earlier irritation. I'll have you know it goes marvelous with certain dishes. Oh, I don't doubt it, Corbin chimed in, his voice warm and teasing. But few compared to my secret ingredient, flirting and aloof charm. Clearly not a secret anymore, Lisa tossed back. Honestly, it's always so obvious. Am I right, Malik? Totally, Malik agreed, putting an arm around her shoulders. But we're here for the food, not the theatrics. What's cooking, Chef Amara? I grinned at Malik, grateful for their vibrant charm breaking the tension. I added more fresh herbs from the counter to give the soup a splash of color, the scents mingling, garlic, rosemary, and warm spices enveloping us in a tightly woven blanket of comfort. All right, if you two want to taste, then fine, but you both better do it right. I laughed, ladling soup into bowls, feeling the heat of Corbin's gaze on my back, lingering and heavy. As laughter danced around the room, I glanced at Corbin, his brow furrowed as he cut through the laughter, something simmering, some thought he hadn't quite shared yet. "Dinner's almost ready, so until we serve and scare away the guests," he mused, the humor in his voice returning, "let's talk about love and power dynamics, shall we?" "Oh, now that sounds like a heartwarming dinner theme," Lisa bantered with a mock sulk. "I'm starving, and you two are dishing out philosophy for dinner?" "Hey," I challenged, throwing in a retort for good measure. "Philosophy and sape? A winning combination." Corbin's expression softened as he swept nearer, sidling into my personal space once more. "And yet, it's more than mere soup now," he murmured quietly, the sparks of our earlier conflict rekindling, weaving their way through the laughter. "Don't push it," I warned, keeping my voice teasing. With playful banter circling around us, my heart raced at the thought of both delicious possibilities and precarious entanglements. As I spared another cautious glance at Corbin, I felt the pull deepen, the thin line of desire repositioning, wrapping around both passion and fear. "It's just soup, right?" "Right," he breathed, but the implications lingered unsaid as the laughter filled the air once more. And I couldn't help but wonder, amidst the laughter and noise, how intricate the layers of that just soup were evolving. That through the lighthearted moments, something deeper was brewing. A heart's desire simmering slowly to life, stewing amidst the chaos. Leaving the emotional burdens for later, I embraced the delightful madness dining with friends would always bring. Chapter 14. A shattering revelation. "Amara, do you even hear what you're saying?" Corbin's voice sliced through the salt-tinged air, each syllable dripping with incredulity, as he stood in the sprawling kitchen that I had transformed into my culinary playground. The hum of the overhead lights mixed with the distant crash of waves against the rocks, a soothing backdrop that belied the storm brewing between us. I crossed my arms, my heart racing, not from fear, but fury. "You think I wouldn't? You think I would just turn a blind eye to the fact that you engineered every part of my arrival here? That I've been nothing more than a pawn in your game?" Punctuating my words, I gestured toward the immaculate marble counter where bits of saffron still clung to the work surface. Remnants of a dish that had been conceived in creative passion, now tainted by betrayal. The gleam in Corbin's eyes turned dark, a tempest brewing beneath his seemingly calm exterior. "I never meant for you to find out this way. You were supposed to..." "Supposed to what? Fall into your little fantasy? To become your muse without knowing the truth? You manipulated everything, Corbin. Your charm, your status, all of it was a smokescreen." The sudden weight of the room crashed down like the low drone of a failed souffle. The conversation shifted as my heart raced. It wasn't just anger boiling within me, it was the tangled web of emotions straining to break free. There was a momentary silence as he searched my face, his brows knitted in something resembling shock or perhaps regret. "I wanted you to believe in what we had, not just in the professional sense." "Believe what? That you want me for more than a chef? I'm just an ingredient in your carefully concocted recipe," I snapped back, infusing the sting of rebellion into each word. Yet somewhere, buried beneath the ardor of my argument, a flicker of confusion tugged at the edges of my heart. "Don't reduce us to that." He stepped closer, the subtle warmth radiating from him made it hard to stay angry. "You know it was more than that. I was drawn to you. I still am. I thought you saw the same in me." He brushed a stray curls back from my forehead, his fingers lingering, igniting all the dormant sparks where resentment had taken root. "Was this a brand plan to lead me on? What did you intend to do? Make me believe in love while you played puppet master?" I scoffed, though my voice quivered at the edges. The emotional battlefield sharpened, each word a calculated strike, yet I could feel the stakes rising. "Amara," the way my name rolled off his tongue held a warmth, a tenderness that wrapped around my flailing heart. "You have to know it was never just a scheme to keep you here. You captivated me. If I had known how much your reaction would shatter us, I would have told you sooner." "Shatter us?" I repeated, frozen in the realization of just how deep the cracks had begun to form. "You're the one who shattered it, when you decided that I wasn't worthy of the truth." In a flash, his anger ignited. and he snapped back. And you're dismissing everything we shared over a dirty secret? You're bigger than this, Amara. At that, I felt the sting of tears welling, anger morphing into something painfully close to heartbreak. I don't know who I am to you. How am I supposed to trust anything, everything I thought was real? I turned away, unwilling to let him witness the turmoil swirling within me. Just when I thought the moment was lost, a voice burst through the kitchen door. Hey, lovebirds. Whoa, what's going on here? It was Malik, my ever-enthusiastic friend, his presence like a sudden flush of sunlight. Just discussing the finer points of emotional betrayal. I shot back, the sarcasm a thin shield for my vulnerability, as I struggled to keep the tides of passion and anger at bay. Malik raised an eyebrow, the playful energy palpable in his voice. Oh, are we talking about my gal Amara falling head over heels for the elusive Corbin Langston? Bravo. The comedic interjection hung in the air, diffusing a fraction of the tension that was thick enough to slice. Not exactly how I'd frame it, I muttered, unable to stifle the fleeting amusement that danced in the periphery of my distress. Corbin's expression softened, and he turned to Malik, more like a hostile takeover of her affections. Malik dropped an arm around my shoulders and winked. Don't worry, Amara. You know love makes people do crazy things, like foraging for snails at midnight. Kind of like your last romantic escapade? I teased, a smirk creeping onto my lips as I pressed on, hungry for distraction. Hey, low blow, he shot back, laughing despite the heaviness that lingered between Corbin and me. But Corbin remained stony-faced. This is not a joke. Isn't it though? We can't have the billionaire in hot water over a spat. Malik winked again, his effortless humor a spark against the shadow of the argument that felt as heavy as stone. Let me resolve this. Corbin stepped forward, but his tone was quieter, grounded. Malik, I appreciate the comedic relief, but I need Amara to know the truth beyond what she thinks I did. This time his eyes held mine firmly as he spoke, the unshed vulnerability igniting a fragility within me that warred with rage. You say I twisted your arrival, but what about the twisted relationships you've had? I only pulled strings because I care, Amara. His voice dropped to a whisper, but the weight of it was enormous. It was both commanding and gentle, an anchor I desperately wanted to cling to, but struggled to allow myself. Corbin, I hesitated, the conflicted pull of desire twitching beneath the ire. You're angry because you feel betrayed, but what I didn't stage was how intensely I fell for you. He took another step closer, closing the distance and distracting the chaos within, but I fought to hold on to my resistance. You had a plan. You didn't even allow me a choice, I countered, struggling to reclaim my ground. Amara, let me show you how I intended for this to unfold. His voice became a soft caress, almost a plea. Malik, sensing the change in the room, took a step back, raising his hands in mock surrender. I'll be in the wine cellar if someone needs counsel that doesn't involve escalating tensions. But his gaze danced between us, playful and serious. Whatever happens, I hope it brings that spark back, while I indulge in some gutsy rosé. I met Corbin's gaze, breath hitching in my throat. The air shifted, laden with unspoken words and urgings that electrified the space between us. You can't change the past, Corbin, I murmured, though my heart thudded with the conflicting desire to take a step forward. But I can change how I navigate the future. With you, he murmured, if you'll grant me that chance. I inhaled sharply, his plea pulling at me with a weight far deeper than the betrayal. You can change, but it doesn't erase what you've done. Yet still we stood, the tension thrumming as silence fell like thick fog, both of us wrestling with a desire that flickered just beneath the surface, yearning to break free. Amara, I promise, I'll prove it to you, show you what love can become, beyond my mistakes. As though caught in a rush of motivation, I could see the imminent heat in his eyes. The world outside faded, and I was pulled closer, against all the stubbornness brewing within me, the unexplored sensuality trembling beneath the surface. Show me, I whispered, moving toward him, the boundaries of anger and longing dissolving. He wrapped his arms around me, and the space between us ignited like a lit match, the flames licking at our skin, igniting the air around us with the rawness of our entwined forces. And just when the intimacy of our moment threatened to engulf us entirely, a voice broke through the silence. Serious chat or a scandalous reconnection? I guess I missed the cue, Malik shouted from the wine cellar, laughter bubbling through the tension, forcing a reluctant smile from my lips. Dramatic timing, my friend. Corbin rolled his eyes, but his grip never faltered, my body tethered to his, as if fate had finally laid our paths side by side. Are you two going to argue or show us why we're all here? Because I have a bottle of very smooth wine to celebrate, but I'll only share it if we're laughing and not fighting. Laughing despite the tumultuous emotions, I finally met Corbin's eyes, both of us flooding into the shared anticipation of a bittersweet resolve as the laughter wrapped around us. In that moment, I understood what that warmth meant. Maybe we could transcend this anger. Perhaps, just perhaps, love, even amidst chaos, would find a way. Chapter 15. Embracing Love. The kitchen sizzled around me, a cacophony of bubbling sauces and the rhythmic chop of knife against board. The air was thick with the rich aroma of garlic and basil, an enticing mix that should have grounded me in my work, the familiar and comforting. Yet today, as I diced tomatoes with a practiced precision, the warmth of the day felt like a tease, brewing the storm clenching in my chest. Amara, don't forget the time. Mariah's voice cut through my fog, her tone playful as she stirred a pot of risotto on the opposite stove. She glanced over her shoulder with a knowing smile, eyebrows raised almost conspiratorially. Rolling my eyes, I muttered, "Oh, please," as if I would ever forget time. The light-hearted banter didn't ease the tight knot in my stomach. A glance toward Corbin, who stood across the room bathed in golden sunlight, made my heart skip. He was watching me, a smirk playing on his lips as he leaned against the countertop. His shirt hugged him closely, the dark fabric accentuating the elegance of his posture. I could feel the pull of his gaze like gravity. "Look at you two." Mariah leaned closer conspiratorially. A little romantic tension in the air? She winked at me over the simmering pot. The playful energy radiating from her was a contrast to the tangled feelings twisting inside me. "Hardly romantic," I replied, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. My thoughts tumbled, rolling dangerously close to the edges of jealousy and fear. "Just strange, with all that's—" "Amara, cut it out," Mariah interjected, her voice tightening. "You know what you need to do." "What I need?" I scoffed, a flicker of annoyance igniting within me as I met Corbin's steady eyes. "What do you mean? You don't even know what you're talking about." Mariah lifted her hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean you need to chase him, not dismiss him. I can see the way he looks at you. Dear Lord, it's like you're the only thing that matters in the room." "Easier said than done," I muttered, my mood darkening as a storm cloud rolled over the island's horizon. "What if it's just—" I trailed off, a lump forming in my throat. What if it truly is just a game for him, a slow suffocation of trust and connection, a distraction from whatever darkness he was running from? Marisol, the other chef, chimed in, rolling her eyes exaggeratively. "Oh, please, you've seen the way he watches you chop those tomatoes. That's desire, my friend, and you can't let fear stop you from seizing that." Just then, the bright sound of thunder boomed outside, resonating through the kitchen. I flinched, instinctively reaching for the countertop. Rain pounded suddenly against the windows, each droplet racing to catch up with the turbulent emotions inside me. "See? Even Mother Nature agrees," Mariah teased, nudging me lightly. "You two should probably, I don't know, get under some blankets and talk it out." "Talk? Is that what we're calling it now? Talking?" I shot back, sarcasm dripping from every word. Corbin chose that moment to sweep forward, breaking our little circle, his presence magnetic. "What's going on in here?" he asked, his tone balancing between casual and deeply interested. Everything seemed to pause around him, even the rain. "Just some kitchen gossip," Mariah shrugged, her eyes sparkling like the storm outside. "Gossip?" Corbin raised an eyebrow at me. I could see the storm of emotion swirled in his dark gaze as his lips twitched at the edges. He crossed his arms, comfortable yet commanding. "What are you cooking? Mischief?" "Ha! Very funny, Corbin." I took a breath, channeling the whirlwind of my warring thoughts into an air of nonchalance. "We were just discussing recipes, a hearty one to soothe the heart." His smile faded, a flicker of something serious passing between us. "Ah, well, let's make sure we use all the right ingredients then." There was a depth in his words that sent my heart racing, and the atmosphere in the kitchen grew thicker. The tension should have been unbearable, yet oddly, it felt more like a challenge, igniting every nerve in my body. "Fine, let's do it right." I met his gaze, a silent promise cracking between us. But the storm outside raged, making the kitchen feel like it was about to explode. The images of my thoughts clashed against the truth in his eyes. He had orchestrated so much of our relationship as if it were a carefully managed dish. What if he wielded control like a privileged knife at the heart of it? Mariah cleared her throat, breaking the moment. "Truthfully, I've never been so distracted in this kitchen. Maybe it's time for a break." She lightly clanged two spatulas together, her expression mischievous. Corbin let out a laugh. The sound was a balm against the tension. "Distracted?" he echoed, the lightness returning to his voice. "Seems to me one way to alleviate that is with a tasting menu." "Ugh, you're impossible." I threw a dish towel at him, which he caught with reflexes too impressive. "Just let's focus on working." Corbin feigned regret, but I could see the glint of mischief in his eyes. "But how can we work when clearly we have such relocation of feelings to address?" His smirk was infuriatingly charming. "Feelings? You know nothing," I countered, crossing my arms. "One minute you flirt, and the next you're cooking masterpieces," he cut in, stepping closer, his voice dropping to that intoxicating level I hardly knew how to respond to. "What's wrong with a little chaos? Sometimes that's where the beauty lies." I faltered for a moment, aware of how easily the spark in his tone could ignite something deeper, something utterly vulnerable inside me. "You're full of it, you know that?" "Amara," he said softly, catching my eye, "maybe you just need to embrace that chaos instead of fearing it." I felt the world dim around us as the storm outside roared, rain pounding against the windows like a million tiny drums. It mirrored the conflicted emotions swirling within me. I could choose the safe route away from his magnetic pull, or sweep toward whatever darkness awaited in his depths. Suddenly, an idea struck me, fueled by a contradictory mix of bravery and insanity. "Fine, let's embrace it then." "Excuse me," Mariah interrupted. "What are we embracing? Chaos or that storm of chemistry?" "Oh, it's just a metaphor." I waved my hands as if summoning the energies of the kitchen. Corbin stepped closer, amused yet intrigued. "What kind of metaphor?" "About allowing oneself to thrive in the chaos of it all," I replied boldly, my pulse quickening as I realized the stakes. To stop settling for the safe route. The air pulsed as our eyes locked like a charge, a spark, an invitation, a challenge. It simmered between us, a tempest waiting to break. The rain outside intensified, matching the erratic rhythm of my heart. "I'll accept, but Amara," Corbin said slowly, each word carefully punctuated, "the chaos comes at a price." "Like what?" I tilted my head in defiance, heart racing. "Like passion," he breathed, taking a hesitant step forward. "A plunge into what we really are, no finesse, just raw honesty." My breath caught as I realized the truth in his words. "You mean risking everything?" "Everything," he echoed softly, taking my chin in his hand. "Our connection is more than just culinary." Thunder cracked, momentarily drowning out reason, the world outside lost to a fierce squall. I lifted my hands and pressed my palms to his chest, feeling the warmth of his body, a living embodiment of everything I could both embrace and fear. "Are you certain, Corbin?" I whispered, vulnerability creeping into my voice. His thumb traced my jawline like a promise. "More than ever." He closed the space between us, and all thoughts of retreat evaporated. My heart raced in a furious drum, sweeping us into the eye of the storm. My breath mingled with his, warm and electric, drawing us closer. And as I melted against him, the chaos, both inside and out, became something beautiful, exhilarating. The world outside faded into nothingness. Our lips connected in a storm of reckless urgency, passion igniting like sparks of fire between us. The rain battered the windows, drumming a rhythm that matched our desperation. Every argument, every lingering doubt faded into the backdrop, leaving only us, wild, untamed, and unapologetically hungry for what that storm could become. With each kiss, the world melted away until the only chaos left was tangled limbs and breathless laughter. A storm of our own creation. As the intensity of our embrace peaked, I found myself whispering against his lips, "Then let's create our own recipe." "Absolutely," he murmured strongly, pulling me closer as the kitchen erupted into a whirlwind of taste and love, leaving fear far behind. Because in that moment, I understood what it meant to embrace love amidst chaos, surrendering to an adventure that was ours alone. Chapter 16, A Temporary Retreat. The shore stretched before me like a canvas, the colors of the sea unfurling in myriad shades of blue, each one more vivid than the last. Sunlight dipped over the horizon, draping the golden sand in a soft, shimmering mantle, as the waves lapped gently, whispering secrets that only the ocean could know. Here, amid the salt air and the heady scent of sunscreen and coconut, I allowed myself a rare moment's respite, though the undercurrent of tension never truly faded. "Look at this place," Corbin said, his voice smooth as he unpacked our picnic basket underneath the shade of an overhanging palm. This was his idea, a secluded beach retreat to escape the noise that constantly buzzed in our lives. He cast a glance my way, revealing the flames of a formidable intention behind those dark eyes, but masked with a casual charm that somehow unsettled me. "I can't believe you managed to get us all the way out here," I said, a teasing lilt in my voice. "What, no helicopter, just an unmarked boat?" I smirked, anticipating the casual mention of absurd wealth played off like a punchline. Corbin paused, setting the basket down. "You'd be surprised what I can arrange for you, Amara. This is just the beginning." It should have sparked a quick laugh between us, but the moment hung on the air, tension threading through. Ignoring the swell of unease, I focused on the prickle of the sun on my skin, on the fine grain of sand slipping between my toes. "Just the beginning, huh?" I challenged with a playful eyebrow raised. "Does that mean I get a yacht next time? Or a private island?" His laughter was rich and genuine, its resonance warming the chilly edge in me. "Or you could settle for what's in this basket." He opened it, revealing an elaborate selection of gourmet treats, an explosion of colors that teased my palate: mango and papaya salad, spicy shrimp tacos, fresh limeade perfumed with mint. "Okay, that's a fair trade," I admitted, kneeling next to the beach blanket he laid out, the soft fabric cradling us as I arranged the food. "But don't think this absolves you of those yacht and island promises, Langston." He leaned closer, his voice drops into a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm afraid those are for later, when you're thoroughly spoiled and my dark agenda is in full swing." The hint of his past came clad in mirth, a thin layer of honesty that made my stomach knot and my heart race. "Your dark agenda," I echoed, relaxing into the banter even as a shiver of anticipation threaded through me. "I'll put that on my list of things to consider, right after Beware of Well-Dressed Billionaires." I nudged him playfully with my shoulder. "Hey now, I promise there are worse things than a billionaire trying to woo you," he countered, his gaze intense, searching mine. "Don't go ruining my reputation." He reached for a taco, his fingers brushing against mine, igniting my senses. My breath caught just for a moment, the laughter fading into something thicker, an unmistakable current lurking beneath our playful facade. Tell me this isn't the best taco you've ever had, he urged, devouring his with a glint of challenge in his eye. Okay, it's pretty fantastic the way you overthought the recipe, I admitted, a teasing smile angering me momentarily in humor. Who knew squeezing lime over shrimp could feel so revolutionary? It's all about layering, like life. He inclined his head, eyes narrowing slightly, almost as if catching me in a web of thoughts beneath the surface. Each flavor, every experience must complement the other. Sure, while you keep your life's secrets buried deep like hidden spices, I countered, trying to steer us back from dangerous waters. He laughed, but I felt the drop of tension, the silence between us stretched thick, suffocating. Nature's sounds flitted around us like unseen eavesdroppers. The wind picked up, whirling grains of sand through the air. All right, Amara, what's your flavor? Corbin finally asked, his tone shifting to something softer, more serious. Have you kept everything on the same level, or have you ever ventured into the extraordinary? A wall of warmth enveloped me at his question, inviting and terrifying at once. Focusing on everyone else, getting ahead, improving my craft. It hasn't really left room for anything extra. He leaned back slightly, deep contemplation furrowing his brow. Is that what you want, then? To remain where you are? I shook my head, feeling the stubbornness rise. No, it isn't. Then what's stopping you? His question lingered between us, thick with challenge and vulnerability, the undercurrents of our connection stirring again. Our eyes locked, the world around us fading into soft focus, surrendering to what lay between our friction. The sun dipped lower, suffusing everything in an auburn glow, creating shadows that danced along our skins. I moved closer, a rebellious whisper swirling between us as I dared to ask, "What about you? What do you want?" Corbin's gaze flickered back to me, something stormy and dark, skulking behind those eyes, always teetering on the edge. I want the same, but there's this gnawing pull from my past that it grips me. His voice lowered, something raw spilling through. You deserve more than a mess. Maybe I like messes, I shot back, matching his intensity down the invisible line threading our lives. Maybe that's the extraordinary I've been searching for. Is it mess you're after? I think it's passion. Passion has its place, but it often comes with a lot of heat that can burn. He smiled wide at that, a bright flare of humor to lighten the weight. That's where I thrive. Fire. Ah, the brilliant inventor in the tycoon suit. I chuckled lightly, fingers playing with a loose strand of hair. How original. Better than a chef stuck in her own kitchen, Corbin challenged, yet something deeper flashed in his eyes. The game flared between us, a challenge, and I felt the pull like iron to a magnet. There came an amusing squeal from the direction of the beach, drawing our attention. Leia, a friend from college, was frolicking about, her laughter infectious. "Hey, what are you two doing? Hide the silverware. Look at those colorful dishes." "Just indulging in a little opulence," I called back, failing to mask the laughter beneath my words, but underneath, my pulse hastened in excitement. Corbin has a flair for the dramatic. Waving them over, Corbin caught my eye as we shared the playful moment. The friends tumbled into our space like splashes of color, their laughter wrapping us in warmth. A soft distraction from the tension. Malcolm, her partner, playfully dove for a taco, holding it up like a trophy. "Drunk on this taco or what? Just look at it. Who needs friends when you can have food?" "Hey, I'll remember that when you're swimming with hungry sharks," Corbin shot back. Laia plopped down next to me, nudging me to the side. "Just kidding. We couldn't resist the allure of love and culinary delights. Do we get to sample? I hope you save me some of that spicy shrimp." "Better get your hands on it fast," I grinned, feeling the tides shift again with camaraderie. The banter continued, rhythmically flowing like the waves behind us. I sensed the shifting dynamics of playful tension settle in the air, laughter transforming vulnerability into lightness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing us in twilight, I couldn't shake the sensation of something deeper bridging the gaps. an understanding not yet vocalized, but tangible in the quiet touches and knowing glances exchanged with Corbin. Another burst of laughter swept over us, a reminder of the world full of potential beyond my comforts. All right, let's make a toast. Corbin raised his drink, the sunset framing him in an ethereal glow. To mysteries and flavors, to friendships that stay strong amidst chaos, and to what lies ahead, whatever it may be. Everyone chimed in, the air ripe with joyous anticipation, the night unfolding before us like an uncharted adventure. But as the glasses clinked and shadows lengthened, the pull between Corbin and me settled back into an electric tension. The hurtling desire lingered, a promise lingering in the corners of our unspoken exchange. As we all leaned back under star-laced skies, beside the obscured waters of the ocean, I couldn't help but wonder how many layers were still waiting to be uncovered. Only time would tell if the flavors would entwine, or if we too would wrestle with the fires of desire ignited from our temporary retreat. Just remember, I whispered to Corbin as the evening settled around us. Passion has its price. He leaned closer, a glint of mischief sparkling in those incredibly deep eyes. And I'm willing to pay. Though the night wasn't over, and the complexity of our connection still intertwined between lighthearted jests and earnest conversations of what had yet to reveal itself, I knew one thing for sure: this was merely the beginning. Chapter 17. Craving Connection. Tension rippled through the air like the slightest hum of an electric current, a whispering promise of what could be, what had nearly been, just hours ago. I stood in the kitchen, the echo of the ocean waves, each crash against the rocky shore, punctuated by the fading light of a dying sunset, wrapped around me like an unwelcome shroud. The smell of sautéed garlic intermingled with the rich aroma of braised short ribs simmering in red wine. Somehow, the scents provided a semblance of comfort, yet every whiff reminded me of my fragility. Corbin lingered in the doorway, his brow furrowing as I chopped the vivid green herbs with measured precision. It was an attempt at normalcy when the waves of uncertainty crashed over me as fiercely as the tide. Our last conversation, charged with secrets, lingered like smoke in the air. "It's just food, Amara," he had said, his voice a symphony of frustration and disbelief. "You can't pretend it doesn't matter anymore." "Can't I?" I had snapped back, clenching the knife tightly, trying to quell the impulse to hurl it, or worse, hurl my heart right at him. "You put me in this position, Corbin. This wasn't my choice." Choice? He had stepped closer, the air growing heavy around us. Or was it really just my agenda? I exhaled, shaking off the hushed urgency of our last encounter, the sharp edge of my vulnerability still raw and exposed. The light in the kitchen dimmed as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow on Corbin's face. In that moment, he resembled a work of art, flaws and all, infused with the weight of stories unspoken. "Amara," he began, that familiar depth of his voice curling around my name like a warm embrace. "We need to talk about this. Don't you dare," I warned, raising the blade to emphasize my resolve. "Not while I'm holding a knife." He chuckled, the tension breaking in an inexplicably magnetic way, but the laughter was fleeting. "You carry that kitchen knife like it could defend your heart, yet your eyes betray you. I see it, you know." "See what?" I shot back, channeling defense that felt half-hearted even as it left my lips. "The craving for connection," he took a step further into the room, and my pulse quickened, "is there, bubbling beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise." A smirk tugged at my lips as I finally turned away from the chopping board. "That's a poetic way of saying you're good at reading people. Too good, in fact." "Is that so?" he challenged, his pulse visible at the base of his neck, delicately throbbing with anticipation. "Then why don't we put that theory to the test?" I wasn't ready for the heat in his gaze, a mix of challenge and desire that sent an unfamiliar flutter through my core. Desire didn't frighten me, it seduced me. But it was the emotional amalgam of vulnerability and yearning that left me feeling exposed, a live wire beneath his touch. "I'm just a chef, Corbin. Cooking is what I know, and I'm good at it. But intimacy, that's a different recipe altogether, I confessed, my voice a soft murmur, but the tension was palpable. Then let me show you how to find the perfect ingredients for that recipe. His voice dropped, a tantalizing whisper that snaked through the warm air and wrapped around my heart. Maybe I don't want it, I half lied, touching the countertop in an instinctual grounding gesture. The kitchen's my sanctuary, Corbin. Is it? He pressed, almost too close now, the magnetic pull between us crackling. Or are you just hiding? From what? I felt my defenses falter, caught between the warmth radiating from his body and my instinct to shield myself. From me. From this. He gestured around, the intimacy of the confined space bursting against the weight of our unspoken truths. Let me cook with you. If not food, then emotions. Consider them simmering at the forefront, waiting for us to taste the layers beneath the surface. Before I could answer, he stepped closer still, the air between us thickening, laden with silence and what-ifs. We can spice this up, Amara. He was teasing, toying with my nerves, and I couldn't let him see how much those words affected me. I'm afraid your idea of cooking and mine may differ radically. And yet the elegance of his humor, that glimmer of mischief in his eyes, made the scent of garlic suddenly heady, intoxicating. I stepped closer, fueled by an impulse I couldn't quite apprehend, searching, yearning for that connection he had spoken of. Fine, show me your technique, I invited, my heart racing with something akin to both challenge and reckless abandon. Just trust me, he murmured. With a flick of my wrist, I set the knife aside, and the tension between us practically sparkled. I grabbed a mixing bowl, sloshing together ingredients almost mechanically, olive oil, lemon juice, fresh herbs, until it transformed into something fragrant and enticing. You know I can't possibly work with someone who thinks they can manipulate my ingredients. And what if I showed you how to transform them? He countered, his gaze unwavering. All right, Chef Langston, teach me, I replied, the thrill of engagement masking the trepidation swirling within. As he stretched his arm out to take over, that simple action ignited a blaze in the depths of me. The brush of his fingers against mine felt electric. The world outside evaporated, leaving only this moment. Make sure you keep it balanced, Corbin instructed, his tone somehow both commanding and playful as he reached for the whisk, his body brushing against mine. The sensations that rolled through me were dizzying. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, an invitation to lean into his strength. Balanced, I echoed breathlessly, torn between exasperation and fascination as I poured the mixture into a pan, everything simmering to life around us, a tension thick in the air. Exactly, you don't want one flavor overpowering the rest, right? He quirked an eyebrow, but his seriousness brought it all back, the weight of secrets unaddressed. Just like emotions too, Amara.